Right. We have a quorum of members. Let's stand up and do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jump the magic. Luckily you won't. Does anyone have anything that they would like to bring to the attention of the board that will fit into, that is not included into the agenda? Anyone have anything for public comment?
I've got a couple of things, but I just want to make sure don't fall off our radar.
Okay,
One is the information center. The Belgrade's Business Group bought that trust a couple months ago, and we forget to take it up on an agenda. So we need to make sure that we do that. Another question that I had posed with electronic sign out front, whether or not we had the money in the budget to fix the sign. And if so, where's that money coming from? Because we did not budget $3,000 for that sign this year. And the third thing is the Wi-Fi password. Established, and we had a conversation about it, but it wasn't approved, so I would like us to follow up on how that came about, what the cost is. And I would like for that to come before the board for approval. Or not approval. So those are the three things I just want to make sure do not fall off on our list.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I think if you want to ask them. Sessions.
Oh.
Yes.
And all this stuff goes in the shredder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, Sarah.
Yeah, I just want to make the sorry, board aware that on Thursday, May 18th, we have the district budget voting at the PAC BAC at the high school. Starts at 6 p.m. And I want the public also to know, and I would like to request maybe permission to place that in the website of the town. As an app.
Thank you.
Barbara,
Yes.
the only thing I have under public comment is the bridge is open at Castle
I
Island.
saw that.
So I have ridden over and back. It works. So for whoever's watching online, it's open.
The goal was Memorial Day, right?
Yeah, yeah. The goal was no later than Memorial Day,
Hopefully.
hopefully May 1st. So, and it's paved. So we didn't have to wait for them to get the hot top stuff open in May. So good.
Great update.
Okay, we trying something, moving appointments up to the top of the meeting. But I don't believe we have any appointments today.
If we don't have any, we keep that, or you want to just always have that on your
If
agenda?
we always have it, then at least people know that they don't have to sit through a lot of the meeting. If we move it up forward.
Yeah.
We can try it, see how it works.
You can try it. I just want to figure out like having new business in front of the old before the old business.
I know, we tried to clean it up, Dan, and it keeps happening, so I give up.
Okay, I make a motion to move to old business and open up the review and approval of minutes of it. Anyone have any discussion of the minutes? Seeing none?
If they're seeing none, I move we approve the minutes as printed.
I second that.
All in favor?
We will have to do by person because we're by Zoom, so we have to do.
But we're all here,
We
so
still have to do a roll call because it's being recorded and it's a virtual meeting. So because of that, you have to
Okay.
do a
Okay.
person to
I
person.
stand corrected. I didn't understand what you had. Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes,
Barbara? Yes. No?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Okay. Right. I move that we open the discussion of American.
Second thought.
So we've all had a chance to review the material from Seven Oaks Alliance concerning the erosion on town property and the request of up to $30,000 to improve the problems on town properties. Ready for the discussion on this?
so is the request for 26 or for 30?
So we, first of all, Anthony Wilson, the Seven Oaks Alliance, and I want to introduce my colleagues who are here. This is Charlie Bader. I think most of you know Charlie. He's our director of the program. We also have with us Stuart Cole. So Stuart is the erosion control project coordinator. Stuart oversees the Youth Conservation Corps, which would be the outfit doing this work. And so you will recall that we made this presentation back in July of 2022. Yeah. And so costs have increased since then. So, yeah, so if we could get approved for up to $30,000, then I think that would cover any sort of price increases that we might have seen in labor, fuel, and materials.
Okay.
I'm not sure that Dan had helped previously, so I'm trying to make sure that Dan's had a chance to kind of go through it. And
Yeah, I went through the stuff they emailed.
That was the presentation from last
Yeah,
night.
that's just the same packet, right?
Right, but
It
he has the chance to review it and ask any questions because he wasn't there for the presentation. So it's not a hurry up and vote.
I mean, I'm a pictures guy. I'd like to have seen a bunch of pictures, but I mean, I don't have a problem with using some of that.
So I had a question. Anthony, thanks for sending the slides along because that was presented to the board of select persons last year, so it's good to see that again for me as the new person on board. Do you feel that the plan involves here hits the things that are most impactful in mitigating things for non-point source runoff?
The more important question is, does Charlie feel that way? Did you actually came up with the plan? So Charlie, you want to address that?
So many of them are close to the water, so they have a big impact that way. They're also, there's a lot of public visibility on them, so we thought it was a win-win, because not only are you trying to stop some dirt from getting in the lake, but people can see it and maybe take some of those lessons home and do similar projects on their property if it's appropriate. So that's how we approached it. We also tried to keep it within a budget that was, reasonable. And we also try to spread it out around town. We had some projects in the village and project in North Belgrade and a couple of other sites.
Okay. Yeah. And rest assured, Peter, that we will we'll do our best to publicize the work that's being done and give credit where credit's due, that the funding is coming from the town.
I move that we approve up to $30,000 for the Seven Lakes Alliance. 30,000 of ARPA funds for the Seven Lakes Alliance to remediate the town properties that are having erosion control issues.
Are you still on the board?
Hmm?
You're still on the board?
I never was on the board of
Okay.
Seven Lakes.
You were part of something.
I'm BLA, I was
Yeah, okay,
BLA, yeah,
Because if you're part of whatever the group is, you should probably.
no, I'm not part of it.
Okay. Sure.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
You say up to 30 or 30?
Up to 30.
Yeah, so Melanie, how this has worked is once we have completed the work, we will bill the town, invoice the town, and then the town can pay us from your ARPA funding. And we'll make sure we do it for less than 30,000.
29,999.
We won't cut it that close.
Okay,
Any further discussion? All in favor? Peter?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
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 Or yes, 5 yeses.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
you. Thank
Spend it
you.
wisely. That's
Yeah.
right.
And I appreciate your including. I appreciate your including the North Belgrade Community Center. That seems like it's far from Salmon Lake, but it's not.
Right
There's a
across the
culvert
street.
that goes right there and right into the lake.
So, and if you see other projects that you think are higher priorities, let us know. I mean, we'll be at this work for at least the next decade. So, and, you know, as we have projects, we'll bring it to your attention and make sure you're involved as well.
Yeah. One of the great things about having someone with Charlie's experience is he knows the lay of the land, so he knows where all the drainage issues are that impact the lakes. And Stuart's learning. Yep. Call on Charlie Brown.
What's the next big one then? After these?
Well, so we got approved for more than $300,000 in Clean Water Act grants, Peter, on Messalonsky and on Long Pond. And so a lot of that work is going to be starting up this year. Yeah. And in addition to that, and we still have some leftover monies for Great Pond and for Salmon Lake and McGraw Pond. So the work is continuing on those watersheds as well.
So I don't know if you know, but we chipped in on a couple of town projects this last year with Jason Stevens. So we put a little money in the Hoolan Road and Duckville Road with these grants that Anthony is talking about. So we expect to do more of that in the Long Pond and Messalonsky watersheds. So if you're, like I said, if you're aware of projects, either with your ARPA money or our grant money, we'd like to, you know, partner with you.
Well, and when you do projects like that, Charlie, we would love it if the board was somehow noticed about that, because we don't, first I heard about it.
And that's why I brought it up, because I wasn't sure you heard that.
And so that was part of the road project. And so Charlie and Jason worked really well together in finding opportunities where we can supplement the town's funds with those Clean Water Act grants. And so replacing some culverts and addressing some drainage issues down there on both those roads that you just mentioned was just part of the overall package for the roads.
It pretty much works anywhere in the watershed. So even, you know, we target the ones that are closer to the lake, but even if they're upstream, we, you know, if it's causing a problem, we're happy to help or try to fix it.
Yeah, did they ever end up doing the dye testing down in the village for the septics down there? We talked about it multiple times.
I don't know anything.
Not to my knowledge.
Because that's something we have got to think about doing.
I think you're-
Well,
I think you're right.
I don't think we had done it then, because the problem was going to be the grandfathered septic systems and whether or not it was gonna prompt us to have to do a public septic. And that there was not available space for a public
We
septic.
still need to
so
find out how that
that's
is.
where it went.
We're doing some of that on North Pond this coming year because of the algae problems I have there and there's so many camps that are right on the water, as you know.
So it's, if you'll indulge me just for a second, there's some interesting stuff going on with that, because what they're doing is testing the water for caffeine. Because that would indicate that septics are leaking
And
into
that
the
people
lake.
are doing it.
Yeah.
That's for Advil.
Bruce?
Well,
There is.
yeah,
Oh, well, George would know, yeah.
Yeah,
So it kind of falls under code enforcement, testing of septics. I mean, the place to check is the town of Bassboro. I know that, I'm pretty sure code enforcement did the dye test in Bassboro. Not 100% sure, but I know Bassboro was one of the big towns about 10 years ago that did this. And went around and started testing their septics by putting a dye to find out how many are going in. I know it's coming to lakes
Oh, we know.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of those fields that just made,
Oh.
fields that just failed.
there's some that there isn't
You
any
know,
field.
so, right, so.
They just cesspool, yeah, or what we call, you know, in the old days, they called pig trough, so there's just two emerald boards. And out there goes.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
It was a great visual.
Okay, I move that
Are you
we,
around tomorrow?
Yeah,
I'll buzz you.
yeah. Thanks again for having us.
okay,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
thanks for taking on the town properties. Move that we open discussion of the planning board ordinance.
Charlie, thank you.
Okay.
So. We had a chance to look at this. We wanted to hear what the planning board. If the planning board accepted it, additions. Oh yeah, I'm looking at you, Peter, but you're not on the planning board. George.
Can I ask you?
Sarah's here as well, of course. The planning board at its last meeting, adopted all the changes recommended by the town attorney 5-0. There's nothing really of that much consequence anyway. And so, following that, we provided a clean copy to Warren, and that's what you have in the packet. So that what's in your packet reflects the changes suggested and the edits suggested by the town attorney.
So one of the things I just wanted, when we were reviewing a final ordinance and there's been edits from the previous one, if we can have the previous one as well in our book, so we can just go back and forth. And make sure it makes it easier for us to make sure, because everybody looking at it knows what it's supposed to say. So if we're also double checking and making sure that nothing got missed on the final copy, then there's more people doing so.
I do have my own copy of the markup from the town attorney if you need to see it.
Well, that's what
And we had-
we'd have it here, so then we could be like, oh, this was the old one, these were the changes, here's the one, and yes, we're gonna approve this.
And I think we had this one last meeting.
We did, so that's why every board book is a new book, and we shouldn't have to try to find our stuff from previous meetings to put into that one. So if we just have those two together, if there's changes, it makes it easy for us to just quick check them. Other than that, I think it's fabulous.
Any further discussions?
And we'll have a plan for it.
Yes.
I know, we're getting nervous. Is there going to be a planning board?
So do we need to vote on this?
Yes.
Okay. To go to the referendum, correct?
Yes. And so
Sarah's very good.
what is the wording? Oh,
I'm sensing you guys are getting ready to vote.
yes.
Right, so before you vote, I wanna express my gratitude to George, because he really was the architect of making this happen. Mr. Searle put a lot of time into this work. We just came to the planning board meeting and approved it because he guided us through it. So thank you, George. Mr. Searle, thank you so much.
Thank you, George.
Your face is getting red.
I move we approve the planning board ordinance as presented, to be voted on in, June.
And set the hearing date,
It's at the public hearing.
set the public hearing for May 2nd.
And set the public hearing for May 2nd.
And then you said.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Any further discussion? All in favor, Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
Heather, yes, okay,
Thank you.
Barbara,
yes,
yeah, I will need the marked up copy from George, just because I need to present both as part of my posting.
I have a marked up copy.
Okay, all right, very good.
Excellent.
So you're all set with that, or?
Yeah, run like the wind, George.
As long as you got copies the same as her, Mike.
Can you, if you have the official marked up copy, can you, if you have it with you, can you give that to Lorna so that that copy gets to the town clerk?
Certainly.
And we promise you can have it back if you want.
No, I.
In case your marked up copy has.
Well, I had the original electronic version from the town attorney.
Okay.
So I'll
You
just
just
forward
send
that to you.
for that to Mary or Lorna, both.
Perfect.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. So I move that we opened the article on sexton cleaning position job descriptions.
Second,
Then you have updated copies.
On the table.
Yeah, a couple of board members went over these this afternoon. And we just made some grammar edits.
But the ones in the book, I can just get rid of it, I don't have notes,
Yeah, yes, yes.
so I don't have multiple copies there.
Yes.
So anybody have any questions for Cory?
the only thing I have on the draft of the sexton's job, I don't see where it says they have to have a valid driver's license. We have it on one, but looks, unless I'm looking at the wrong copy. Under training and experience, shouldn't we add they have to have a valid driver's license?
It's under requirements of work, must pass background check and have a valid driver's license.
Under. Okay. Oh, it's up there, okay, all right. It was just different from the other one, that's why I'm like, wait a minute, I thought it was up there.
So the process on these is that once we approve them, they will be posted
Yes.
and we have some candidates.
You have candidates for both positions? Ooh.
So for the sexton job description, under the requirements of work, it talks about working with the Sims program. So maybe this is obvious, but I don't know the answer, but do you guys have a computer where
Yeah,
you are, so that they could,
it has the whole cemetery mapped in the computer system.
but you have a computer where your office is so that, yeah, you know, that.
Yeah, the computer. Once in a while.
Any other questions?
We want to vote on these one at a time.
Yes.
I move we approve the job description for the custodial, Town of Belgrade custodial maintenance worker.
And I second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
But listen, like, just, I guess I'm just a little bit stumped on it because I thought the custodial maintenance work, there doesn't not seem to be as much custodial information. So looks like mostly building and grounds maintenance, snow removal and things like that. So I guess I was assuming in here, since we were looking at making this position half-time custodial and half-time facilities, that there would be more what we're expecting on the custodial end. Because that has historically been a problem with what we assumed our custodian was going to be performing for work and what was actually being done. So I don't know that this one I'm 100% sold on yet, because we're not really saying what we're requiring of the custodian.
In the first, under the essential duties and responsibilities, it said the regular and seasonal buildings / grounds cleaning and maintenance activities. So it does say cleaning as number one.
It doesn't sound to me like that is cleaning the inside of the buildings. And are we talking?
Custodial typically cleans buildings.
Correct.
Maintenance typically does maintenance on buildings and grounds.
So are you understanding what I'm saying, though, Corey, is we've tried this before?
We have,
And so
we have tried
we
this
can
before.
assume that we know what a custodian does.
and I
But
think
if we
in a
spell it
conversation
out,
of with the person that we ultimately choose to fill this position, we will explain what the duties will be. I mean, we're not gonna be able to write down every duty in a job description.
I would say what we would do is we would take the cleaning contract and what we gave them for parameters. And if that's what we're expecting a custodian to then do, we would say weekly cleaning of certain facilities. We would say seasonal, whatever we want for seasonal. We talked about doing the windows and certain things. So I think for me, if we're creating this two-part position, that we should have equal explanation given to both parts if we're requiring someone to do both of them to our expectations. But if someone doesn't know what our expectations are, then they can't know.
I certainly think that an explanation upon hiring would be sufficient in, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna go through a list. On Monday, we're gonna wash the windows. On Tuesday, we're gonna do this. We're gonna work at the Center for All Seasons, we're gonna work at North Belgrade Community Center. You're gonna have a 4-page job description if we try to put cleaning duties in a job description.
Or we could just not do it then. Use that option too and just hope for the best.
So usually how that works is when you're doing the interviews, you have a list of questions in the interview process. And that will be part of the question that you fly out in the interview process. I think as long as you have custodian on your application or on that, as long as it's custodian and facility maintenance and snow plowing, I think it's fine. It's when you start doing the interviews that when you lay out the question, and that's up to the interview committee to, usually, you come up with a list of questions. How we've done all the hires I've done with the town. I don't think. So, if you go to. Any, as long as you have custodian in there, custodian means janitorial work or janitor, you put janitorial. Maybe instead of custodian, put janitorial. Janitorial is basically the janitorial for buildings. I don't think you need to describe, you gotta do windows and clean and snap, as long as it's just janitorial or custodian, one of that, as long as that's in there, and then on the iron, when you're doing the interviews, that's when you like. What the job's gonna be.
I think we can just rearrange the first bullet to say, assist the facilities and grounds maintenance director in the regular cleaning and maintenance, regular and seasonal cleaning and maintenance of buildings and grounds, of the town's buildings and grounds, something like that, just bring, rather than, because when I first read this, I thought, I didn't even see this cleaning in the first item. So, I get your point, but I think if we rearrange that first sentence so that it highlights the regular cleaning as an important part of the job.
I'm happy to be outvoted here, but if I were applying for a job and only half of the job description was listed. And then I got to an interview and I was told there were all these other pieces to it. Then you feel obligated to stay for the interview. You're not prepared for the questions or the answers. So I would think that if we took an extra 15-20 minutes and put what we required of our cleaning service as part of this custodial piece, that it would make more sense for us to provide an accurate job description of what someone would be applying for. So that you all can outvote me and we can push it through this, so fine by me.
Peter?
After Sarah, I know she had her.
Yep, go ahead, Sarah.
When we had the discussion during the budget season. And we had initially it was only a budget meeting and then we read to the select board and we talked a little bit about this. And was trying to understand the having just one position for the sexton and then The custodial wanted to move it and lump it up with, this way with facilities. And being this, it created a not typical position for the town. I think it's worth it, describe it, what the town expect from this person in the list of jobs. For instance, I don't have a clean lady anymore, but when my mom was alive, it was a lot, and I have several cleaning ladies coming through because what I thought it was cleaning is not what they thought it was cleaning, till I found the right one. So, depicting, for instance, well, we expect you to do the floors, we expect you to do the bathrooms, we expect you to do the kitchen. Sometimes they come here and say, well, the kitchen is not part of janitorial work. So having all this in writing and having all the expectations up front will help tremendously.
So, thank you for that. I agree that what Melanie has pointed out and what Sarah has pointed out, that depicting some part of the nature of the work in this up front would be important to help level set expectations. I'm curious if there might be a way to include a succinct sentence in here or two that would talk to, and might be a catch-all kind of a thing, and forgive me if it's just too generic, but there was something like, the facility and ground maintenance director in the regular cleaning of buildings as described in certain contract, or whatever we say about that as was depicted in the contract, or as described by the director in the job description found somewhere else. Something like that to help tell a candidate or interview candidate that there's more to it than just, hey, I'm gonna go shovel. Nope, Mondays is gonna be windows, Tuesdays is gonna be bathrooms, or whatever it's gonna be. Just help level set the expectation here, that's all.
Tom?
Maybe you could just put a little phrase in, like, including cleaning the interior of public buildings to include floors, bathrooms, windows, to include but not limited to, so that they get an idea that this is what they're going to be doing, and there may be other duties in the sign.
Oh, excuse me, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with adding a little more description, but I've got a problem with that first bullet point altogether. Corey, how much time are you gonna spend in here cleaning floors and toilets?
How much am I?
Yeah,
I guess if I'm needed.
well, I mean, the bullet point says they're gonna be assisting you doing it.
We work arm in arm with it.
So, if it were me,
Assistant.
if it were me, I would split that bullet point and have first one say custodial / janitorial work with a little description there. Second one would be to assist the facility and ground maintenance director in, seasonal grounds cleaning and maintenance activities or something. I mean, I would split those two, because right now it sounds like you guys are going in together and cleaning these buildings.
Good point, Dan.
Good catch.
Well, and does the second bullet point perform as many physical aspects of building and grounds maintenance? Does that cover the
That may-
maintenance
that
section
may-
of it?
that
And
may
so the
cover-
first bullet can just be the custodial.
Right, so I mean, it's just, that first bullet point just didn't do it for me. Rest of them seems to be fine.
So do we want to rewrite that first bullet tonight if you have candidates ready?
And do we want to say something about the lifting? Because generally, if your lifting is required, there's an amount, we can't just assume that folks can lift 100 pounds. Is it a 25-pound limit?
I think it's 25, I know.
40 pounds or,
It's been 50.
It's usually 50 to 75.
So I would say with that, we'd like to check with our OSHA regulations to see what the amount is that we can actually put in there for lifting.
Yeah. And yeah, another thing you gotta start thinking about, I don't wanna pull an oil and ointment, but you may wanna put, upon approval of the physical through, workplace health. I just.
But you're gonna have to, really gonna have to do that for all employees, you're gonna do that.
We're talking about doing it with, you know, it's gonna be coming to stuff, but another. There's things that's starting to come out everywhere now, unfortunately. I'm just throwing it out there. I ain't saying yay or nay on it, I'm just saying it's something that you may want to start thinking about.
You know, it's the same thing with the lifting, you know, on Corey's job or anybody else, they all fund that, gotta do it, you need to do them all.
What if your first bullet said, responsible for custodial duties on town properties?
I mean,
I mean,
kind of
just-
agree with what Tom said, that Tom kind of hit the, you know, kind of briefed it and kind of hit all the high points on custodial, you know, he hit the, you know, cleaning the windows, you know.
Floors, windows, bathrooms, kitchens.
Including but not limited to.
right,
Yeah.
including but not limited
Yeah, if you
to.
get that in
That
that
last
list,
phrase right there, including but not limited to.
yeah.
And then what I
Right.
would recommend doing is once you hire somebody, I would come up with a building checklist for every single building they're gonna go into. And every time they come in to clean, they take a checklist with them and they check it off.
And they do it.
So that way you can always grab that checklist when they turn it in and do some spot checks once in a while.
Or if you have a complaint, you can go, well, was this done, only you checked it.
Exactly.
I didn't feel it.
So if we have the list, the description from the contractor company.
Yeah, I think if we took that listing coordinator, talk to OSHA to see what the limit is for lifting, what we can put in there. And
Do you know what that is, Corey? The OSHA?
I know.
You probably could get that, could
Yeah,
probably get that
potentially
pretty quickly.
years, and I don't know why 25 stick in my head.
I think it's probably more than 25.
It's
for those
probably
types
more
of
than
jobs.
25.
For maintenance, like a facility maintenance, I think it's 75.
Yeah.
I know like Dan and I's job
We
description.
get 50-gallon pails and stuff, you know, and they go like 50 pounds easy.
Yeah, I know, I'm gonna
You know,
need
50-pound pails and stuff,
75.
yeah, so, yeah. Gotta be somewhere in that area.
So I know from having visited some of the facilities with Corey last week, with Corey and Lorna, that there is urgency to get this position
Right.
started.
when did we do that? Or was that just something you guys did?
Yeah, it was Thursday. We went out for a couple hours.
We probably, it'd be nice if we all went and reviewed all of our facilities at some point. I thought we were gonna try to do that. Transfer station and all of that. At some point. Been a number of
We
years
certainly,
we've
we
done it.
certainly can.
I think we should. Yeah, a good. Field trip.
It would be.
It is, because then you get to see everything. I almost feel like we should do it every couple of years. I don't know. Type of stuff.
So how are we gonna work this, since we wanna get this position advertised as soon as possible,
So let's just write this out to add at the top.
but we don't know on the weight right now. So we find that out. So.
And do we have?
Can we Google that? Can we Google?
No, we can Google that very quickly.
Yeah.
Every time I Google something, I get 3 different answers.
Corey, are you Googling?
I'm doing something.
And do
I
we
haven't
have,
got the answer.
and do we have the job description that we provided when we put out the contract request for cleaning of the facilities?
I'm sure we can.
I can practically contact.
I don't know, we need all of that wording.
Now, when we pull at least, if it's too long, we can at least pull out pertinent stuff.
Right, maybe.
How about responsibility for custodial
51
duties of
pounds.
town properties, including but not limited to floors, bathrooms, kitchens, and windows, which are your major pieces, including but not limited to, and you've got, so they know they're gonna clean bathrooms, they know they're doing floors, they know they're gonna do the kitchen, they know they're gonna do windows. And then when they sit down with them, you go into all
On
the
the
detail.
detail, yeah.
And then you could change the next line to assist the director in the regular and seasonal building and ground maintenance activities and just take cleaning off there because you've got it up above.
Okay, so what's your proposal for the first?
Well, I said, responsible for custodial duties of town properties, including but not limited to floors, bathrooms, kitchens, and windows.
And is
I
there
mean, this
any,
performs physical aspects of building and ground maintenance. That's sort of in the one above.
Well, we can just eliminate the one above and
And the
have the
performs many,
maintenance, buildings and ground maintenance just be the second one.
they just wouldn't be assisting Cory. We'll take the assisting you out the way,
The list we've got here is way too long, so I would condense it there and then,
including but not limited, if we
yeah.
hit those major points.
Yeah.
Okay, so far I have responsible for custodial duties of town properties, including but not limited to.
Floors, bathrooms, kitchens, and windows. Would be the top line.
Okay, and then the second line could just stay as it is, performs many physical aspects of buildings and grounds
Right,
maintenance.
we just came through. So the first one very clearly is custodial.
Custodial.
Does that take care of the rest of it?
And then we would add the requirement ability to lift 51 pounds.
Well, Corky here. So apparently OSHA does not have, yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's a recommendation from the, NIOSH not to be more than 51 pounds. It's a
Oh, so you could have a
recommendation,
50
but
pound
it's not an
scale.
OSHA standard. So, they don't set limits on how much people can. lift.
I would just say that they must be able to lift 50 pounds.
Let's be able to physically perform manual, including.
That's a recommendation, it's a law or.
No, we're saying we want them to at least be able to lift that.
Well, 50 pounds.
Water in a bucket is taken to 50 pounds.
Right.
During
Yeah.
the job interview, what I would do is I'd recommend taking this page out of the contract and just
Yeah.
attaching it as part of the interview,
if,
which lists it out a little bit more. Or take this list
Okay.
and type up your own.
And that's from the current contract that we have.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
that's a good direction. I have a suggestion for a phrase to add on to the sentence.
Yeah,
Where you said responsibilities for custodial duties, including town, and then what, we listed the 4 things,
yeah,
and I'm suggesting or as assigned by director.
okay.
Which
Yeah.
then, with that supplemental page, is the thing, you say,
Yeah.
all these things. But this is what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Have a good
Because
day,
at some point, you're probably gonna add to that.
right?
Yeah.
But we wouldn't even have to say or, we could just say including but not limited to floors, bathrooms, kitchens, windows as assigned by,
As a sign.
that.
as assigned by the
Yeah,
director.
I think that will cover it.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Signed by the facilities
We
and
might
maintenance director.
still include something about doing equal opportunity employer. You know, we're obligated to have that phrase in any job positions that we advertise.
Always.
We always used to have, the town about where it's
No,
an equal opportunity.
That's on the job posting at the bottom.
Yeah, I don't think it's at all, ever been on our job descriptions.
Oh, not a
I
job
don't say
description.
It's
but
on
posting.
this page, it says.
On the
job
posting,
openings.
yes.
It's
Indeed,
it's a cover page. It's yeah, job openings.
Okay.
So that's like the cover page for.
Right, that,
for both
that
of
has the
us.
clarification, yeah.
So that cover page is not gonna go, because we're gonna advertise 2 separate positions. So that town graduates and EOEs will go on each one, correct?
Each cover page,
Each
Each
cover
cover
page.
page, because this cover page, we shouldn't have one cover page for two jobs.
probably not.
Oh, it's written as seeking 2 full-time facilities maintenance workers. So that clearly does say 1 custodial with light maintenance work.
Mhm. Is there anything else on here that need to change?
And have we ever asked for a maintenance person to be able to obtain a CDL? And should that be a requirement? The requirement has always been that they had to have a driver's license, so will this prohibit people from applying for the position? If they
How
think
much
they
is
might
it
be
paying?
required to do a CDL?
How much is the position paid?
60 for the year with everything, right?
So they're able to obtain if required.
If required.
If required.
So what that's for, I always want to have that put it, asked to be put in there. Was if we end up having to have a public works, that employee could be part of the public, you know, because everything is gonna combine if we end up with public works. So you want that employee to be able to get a CDL license if needed.
So we have not asked for that in the past, because that was your.
Right, because the public works discussion is something that's new.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a plan of the board, that if we're gonna continue hiring employees, that we would throw that somewhere as in the job description. Not saying they're required to have it. It's saying if needed,
What requirements are there to be able to get a Class B CDL?
you gotta get your permit and take a driver's test.
Yeah,
Okay.
the driver's course.
Yeah, then you have to-
I believe you have to take a course.
Right, but I mean,
When we went through it.
Yeah.
it's not that you have to have extra abilities, it's just that, okay,
Yeah, you just gotta take a course. And
Yeah.
so then we would,
You mean, you have to have an air brake endorsement or.
right, yeah, no,
And actually, I think in the public works, you may end up having to have a Class A license, because even you hauling these dump trucks, if you put that flatbed trailer and put that skid steer on it, you could get picked up. Because you're
Probably
hauling,
should check in.
because you're hauling the trailer, you're hauling the trailer.
See, down here, got your back all the way.
Unless you wanna go get a motorhome and just haul them around, skid steer with a motorhome, then you don't need it.
You got it there.
okay, so,
That's a good test. You're good.
So is everyone happy with the wording now? I just saw one other typo under work week. This is a 40-hour work week, works hours. Probably should just be work hours.
Yep.
And very. So we've changed the first sentence and eliminated any maintenance reference in that first sentence and added ability to lift 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So is there anything else? No? Feel that that's satisfactory, as long as the description of the responsibilities from the custodial contract is included during the interviews.
okay, so there's a motion on the floor, right? So I move that we approve this. So I would rescind my motion to say as amended,
As amended.
or change my motion as amended, and then that needs to be seconded. Think, right? As
We
amended,
already have a second. Somebody already seconded.
Peter,
yeah, Peter,
Initially, right?
So,
I will now second this.
the amendment,
Amended.
the amended wording.
go ahead.
If that makes sense.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Dan,
yes,
Carol,
Yes,
Melanie, yes, Peter?
Yes.
Barbara, yes, okay,
And this
bye.
is only custodial maintenance work for them.
yes.
Yes.
okay,
Okay, and draft sexton. Sexton, the draft job description for the sexton.
we probably should take Town of Belgrade sexton job description and take off draft. Right? I mean, we know
Once
it's a
it's,
draft,
once it's finalized, it won't say draft.
right? So move we approve the town of Belgrade sexton job description as presented.
There's a second. Discussion.
Okay.
Did you second that, Peter?
No,
Melanie seconded.
did, I mean, thank you.
so for this one, we need maintenance and someone who's comfortable with computer systems.
All right.
The sexton one is pretty much my job description now. There's another one there, isn't there, that has the assistant?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is basically what I was hired on, is this sexton position one. But I don't know that was ever formalized or what. But this is basically what I was hired under, is that sexton job description. Plus the maintenance thing, so,
That's
That was
everything
pretty
else,
much-
right, Cory?
yeah, that was pretty much nailed down.
But on the cover sheet, it calls it assistant sexton / maintenance, and this doesn't call it assistant sexton.
Well, they're not. They are, this is gonna be the second.
This is gonna be the sexton, so there would be an assistant. So the cover sheet we need to correct.
Technically, Corey probably gotta be the assistant. So,
Well, I'm sworn in as a sexton, so this person will be doing the sexton position under me.
Right, so he will be. Technically, on paper, he'll be the sexton because he's the facility maintenance supervisor. So he'll be supervising the new hire as would be assistant.
Well, then we should call
Well, then
this an
it's
assistant sexton job description.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that
Because
doesn't
that's
sound
what
like
we
what
were-
we put through the budget process, though. In the budget process, it was for a full-time sexton,
Right,
not an assistant sexton.
So,
And my understanding.
how's that
was
gonna work
that
with
we were
supervisor?
associated
well,
with
see,
the
I thought the sexton had to be totally separate. That it-
It's
wasn't
not
explained-
separate now.
No, but I mean, I didn't,
When we originally brought this to the budget committee and stuff like that, when we first originally, you, Dan, specifically said, this has got to be under me.
right, you'd be the you'd be a supervisor, but I thought that somebody said that this person had to be the sexton.
no, that's why we wrote the
Versus you.
description this way is because what was brought up in the discussions we had in the meetings.
Okay.
I mean, we spent a lot of time on this.
Okay.
but this says the
As a
sexton
committee.
will report to the facilities and grounds maintenance director.
Mhm.
So maybe it should say assistant.
Assistant, so they should all be assistants.
These all should be assistant sexton.
So I agree with the wording, but does that help answer Melanie's question about how it was presented in budget
And
discussion?
it was
'Cause that was-
budgeted as a full-time sexton.
Mhm.
And that's
So,
what they will be doing unless we have plowing or something, because there is a ton of paperwork that needs to be caught up. I mean, I had somebody call the other day for a burial, and I had yet to find them. So this person is gonna be busy going through all those old records, and that's, I mean, other than plowing or, mowing the cemetery and stuff like that, that's gonna be their job anyway, but they're gonna.
Right.
99% of it's gonna be sexton here. Because we have a lot of missing records that need to be swamped out and figured out where they gotta go. A lot of stones that need to be fixed, a lot of stones that need to be reset.
All right, so we're gonna put assistant on the,
Yeah, assistant, wherever it says sexton, put assistant in front of it.
which is very good. Are we clear on what we're talking about for budget though? Melanie, you asked a good question.
Well, and I don't want this to be one of those times where we determine at the end of the year that we budgeted for a full-time sexton and we have extra money, so we're gonna use it for other stuff. So if this is an assistant sexton job description, are they being paid at the same rate that we were considering paying a sexton? Well, if this is a facilities maintenance helper, are they gonna be paid the same as this other facilities maintenance helper?
I was trying to get the annual report, because the warrant will be right there.
In the
I
warrant, we
got-
didn't mention the sexton.
Right, it's not-
No, we originally were gonna split everything out, but then as it went
Combined
through the
it.
process, it was included in the budget
So
This
itself.
is definitely, I think one of those positions is $21
And one is.
and one is 20 or something like
Yeah.
that, or 26. They're both full-time positions. They're both,
And so basically, the assistant sexton will be, so he's the supervisor. The assistant sexton will be a foreman, because he will be in
Charge of all the guys mowing and then.
Right,
yeah,
so it's still. It's, there's still a foreman, they're not a supervisor.
Mhm.
He's the supervisor. They'll be a foreman, that's what the assistant is. That's how I think it is.
Mary?
Mary?
She got the guy in mute.
Oh, she's on there.
I know you usually keep the annual town reports right near your desk. Do you know where there's a copy of this one, so Sarah can take a look at it?
So I have a little file on the,
Let's see if Corey, I think Corey had the one.
I have one.
town of grade,
Oh,
report in it.
yeah,
He's gonna-
maybe Sarah.
Thank you.
I think we're good. It's just a matter of figuring out what you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the only,
Well, and I guess my question is for vital records, who's gonna be the sign off authority for those internments and the paperwork that need to be legally signed? Is it gonna be Corey? Is it gonna be the new person?
it'll be.
So there are legal documents that,
yeah,
That's,
it'll
that's
be
one of the
Corey.
reasons I was thinking that was, we were making you supervisor over them, but the sexton was gonna be the sexton.
That's what I.
Because
that's what I
that way they could sign all the stuff that had to be done on weekends and anything that had to be
Right.
done.
yeah, it has to be somebody that has the authority to sign.
And you now have that authority to sign.
Yes.
So as
Yeah.
long as you're willing to take care of all paperwork.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's only certain things that need to be signed, so.
And,
Yeah.
and this assistant does not have that authority.
right.
Yeah, the stuff that has to be
So that-
submitted, to the state, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be the second.
Gotcha, okay.
I mean, the weekend stuff, anyone can sign, because when I do burials on the weekend, that says that I can sign the.
Yeah, that's just the full funeral home paperwork, yeah, that's, yep.
Okay.
Are we good with
Okay,
this?
so are we good with assistant? Sarah, did you?
If you guys are good, it's fine with me, it's just that the way I recall this dialogue. We want to have a full assistant position. And we slotted that in the original budget. Obviously, in the warrants, it went somehow different than I remember, but, all of you are good with it, what I gotta say.
Can I see one more?
I'm trying to see, the last copy of the budget review that we had.
See that? in the original budget that we went through, had a separate article for the section, a separate article for
The maintenance.
the maintenance, the custodian, excuse me. And then I can't remember how it all got, why it got all changed. I can't remember why, but that was,
Included.
I think I was to shorten the article, the less than the articles, correct?
I think so.
You know, that was, you know, the taking through the budget and the select board, so.
Um, I had the idea that this 62 was implementing the new section, that would that mean, but
Because it was a 60 something.
yeah, so I go by numbers, all the words are meaningless to me in this thing.
Right, because this stuff that we worked on in the budget is
Yeah.
what this is supposed to reflect. Here we go.
So,
So we have these two positions in the budget. So it's clear that the sexton's primary responsibility is for the cemeteries.
Right, it was budgeted under that. So
So
are we
if we
ready
change,
to-
if we change the references here from sexton to existing sexton. Seems like
we
we're
never,
good.
and the warrant did not say sexton, the warrant said it was just under cemetery budget, I think.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah.
the word doesn't ask for any position.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
so we
Right.
should be fine.
so we're fine.
Okay, right, thank you.
Because that was something you guys said as a board, that you guys could decide to hire or not.
All right, so we're,
But when, once again,
Yeah, that sounds kind of, part of my first one, like we're being shady.
Right.
And
But that
I,
was you guys as a part, well, before, excuse me. Or you guys were the ones that voted on pushing it that way.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
quite a discussion.
Yeah.
Because I'm not one of shrinking articles, I kind of like the articles, more articles. So it was quite a discussion.
well, I guess I kind of disappointed that it was raising the warrants like this, but, it was what we approved. And the warrants, but in the original discussions, what I remember was a plea for a new position for section. I was sitting right there in the budget committee, and I said actually to Corey, can you enlighten me what a section does? Because I said, how many people you bury in a day or in a week? So as Corey keeps putting in all the work that it is there, and all the people are supporting this cause, I said, well, Corey, we need a new position. So I always thought, I was left with the concept that it was gonna be. new
There, I
position.
think originally there were gonna be two separate warrants and they got combined into one.
Right.
And that's the one that got voted on.
So but then it raised the question that if we were gonna have a full-time section, it's gonna be an assistant section, so the pay rate is different. So we talk about the pay rates. And how much a full section was gonna cost, and that's what we put in the budget lines.
exactly.
It's gonna be a full-time position. It's not gonna be a part-time. It's gonna be an
But the
assistant
rate will,
sexton / maintenance person. It'll be a full-time position. That's what it has been from the get-go. And it was, you are correct, it's split out. And as Bruce said, it was listed and then shrunk by the board. So that it wasn't quite so wordy. And that's the way it passed.
I don't have this right recollection, but I'm gonna rest it at that.
Okay.
Okay. So. Are we ready?
I think so, because it sounds like in the end, no matter how we got there, we are budgeted for the two position.
Oh, yeah.
The budget for full
That's what
position.
it goes to is, it will be the rate. It's not, I will, in my mind, a full sexton will be not at the same rate as an assistant sexton.
But we have a sexton.
We have a sexton, it's the,
who's-
So.
Sarah, so what Sarah's saying is that we budgeted for a sexton,
full-time
not an
sexton.
assistant.
We budgeted for assistant sexton, that's why it's like 21, whatever. a full section would be at 25 plus. Because they would be a supervisor, and a supervisor pay, if you go on and look at the pay for for a full section or a supervisor, the full pay is $25 an hour, is that's the average pay, 25 to 28.
I think that's what it was, yeah.
So the 21 is for an assistant,
And that's what we budgeted for?
correct?
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, maybe we should have, when we was talking, we should have, in our heads, you know, assistant section, we're saying section, you know, even in our committee, but we also are saying that you're the sexton, you're in charge of them, you're gonna be supervising them. They're gonna be supervised, so that assistant sections will be supervising the people that's mowing and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's the way it was originally.
So my understanding is that position was funded for just over 60,000. So if we say that we're at $21 an hour, and then it was $12,000 for benefits was what next average was for half the year. That's 55,680. So we over budgeted?
We didn't budget a full year for either position.
Right.
Okay, but when it comes to that part, I don't know, because that's always figured by the treasurer. I just know what we put in for a dollar figure. And that was, I think that was through the budget committee too.
It's $25 an hour makes it a 64,000, which is where I feel like we will.
All right,
I'm fine with a little less, we're paying a little less money, if Corey's willing to still take care of all the paper that's gotta be signed. And do it for a little less money, save the town a little bit of money.
Yeah,
And the original reason for that, Dan, is because there was a lot of, to put it bluntly, shady stuff that went on in the past when it comes to money coming through the sexton position, through the sexton. I don't touch the money right now. If they're gonna buy a cemetery plot, or if they come in and hand it over to Debbie or Mary, and they get a receipt right from there. That way, there's no questions. I mean, it's where it's gotta go, and that's the way it should be.
I get a receipt at home. I don't have cemetery plots yet, but I still have a receipt.
Sometime this week, I'll point you to a spot.
as long as you don't put him in it, just point him to
Just
it.
put me up by Denny Ketchel.
Hey, that's where you're going. That was the plan. That was the plan. We've already talked about it. So I'll assign them tomorrow.
all right.
Okay,
Can we bring this to a vote?
yes,
I'm good, Melanie's good.
Okay, I move that we accept the job description of assistant sexton.
Is
second,
it assistant sexton / facilities maintenance worker? So it's not just sexton, we'll change in the title.
Right.
So on the job openings page, it says assistant sexton / maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Yeah,
Yes,
Carol,
yes,
Melanie,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barbara, yes, 5-0.
okay.
Who's there? Oh, yeah. Go higher.
Get these
it
people work.
wasn't me. That's all the person.
Nicole, next time, I'm getting ahead in the agenda.
You're getting one?
I'm last on the agenda, we should be ahead, we'll be out of here, you will have to deal with me.
I gotta deal with you anyways.
Next board meeting is you can be patient.
You're welcome.
You got a long time going. You're gonna stay right to the very end.
We may have
Okay.
more questions, sir. You're not going anywhere.
Okay, I move that we open discussion on warrant articles for June.
Second, okay,
So. So we've done the planning board ordinance,
Next is cemeteries. As mentioned in the town manager's report, cemetery committee overlooked the need to add additional funds to the reserve account in preparation of Plan 5. They requested the board to consider a warrant article to move $10,000 from the undesignated fund to the reserve account. And
Oh, there's the draft ordinance, one thing.
the draft cemeteries article, shall the town appropriate $10,000 from the undesignated fund to the cemeteries capital reserve fund? Discussion?
I don't know why we really need to do that. I think we just wait and do it next year, just double up next year, but we need to do it this year.
I think we're in the process of trying to get things squared away.
They need to spend the money now, it sounds like.
So you're playing 5 things dry.
Yes. And if there's further discussion on it, for more executive session on that part of it.
In order to assign you your spot.
I gotta receive, I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
I'll plant right out front here.
Right next to the fireman's memorial.
Everybody your own memorial out there for.
On my headstone.
I move we approve the article, shall the town appropriate $10,000 from the undesignated fund to the cemetery's capital reserve fund. For the warrant, with a public hearing to be held on May 2nd. Did I get them all?
We already met the public hearing. Yeah,
Oh, but this would, oh, I don't have to keep saying that. Okay.
you know, you are.
All right, so motion, now I'll second that. So for discussion, Dan, you had that question, was that answered sufficiently for you? I mean,
It's-
sort of.
If they need the money, it's fine.
It's to fix the roads in Plan 5, but if you guys want more discussion on it, as well.
I know the roads are screwed up, so.
No.
I just, there was a note here about it being in the town manager's report, and I don't remember ever seeing that you guys didn't have enough money for Plan 5 and that was missed, so I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss something.
That was in the last year, the last town manager's report, April 4th.
That really big one,
Yes,
because when I'm looking at the April 4th select board packet, and I don't, town manager's notes not included in that.
it is. Should be at the very end.
Keep skimming to the bottom. But maybe it's in some of those other things. I just didn't remember having seen it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second.
If you don't mind, I just have a question. What does Plan 5 mean? Plan 5.
The new section that they just, all the roads.
That area.
Every time you
Got it.
expand, it's a different
Okay.
plan.
Plan 9.
Yeah.
Area 51.
Actually, it was a Plan 6, it's right here behind us.
Thank you very much for indulging the question. Okay.
All right, all in favor? Peter,
Yes.
Melanie,
Come back to Melanie.
come back to Molly. Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara, yes?
Yeah, I'm okay with it, but I don't see it anywhere.
Okay.
And
5 yeses on the cemetery. On the board. So, at our last meeting, we voted unanimously to include a perpetuity article for multi-year contracts. And had the interpretation from MMA that wasn't really the best idea. And the more I thought about it, I thought, well, I wonder what our attorney would say about that as well. So I asked Lorna to check with Phil. And he agreed with the MMA that we should not do multi-year contracts as a perpetuity article. So since we all had agreed 2 weeks ago, I just wanted to bring that to our attention and see if we want to reconsider that. There are a couple of different ways that we could do it. One is what a lot of towns do, which is not to have any multi-year contracts at all. The other is to have individual multi-year contracts for each particular vendor, each particular contract, whether it's plumbing and heating, whether it's pest control, tree services. And we now have that with a maximum amount for a 3-year contract based on what we paid over the last 3 years. So I just wanted to bring this up since we did vote against recommendation of MMA and council, that as I understand it, the problem is that if we commit the town to a 3-year contract, that the town legislative body can rescind that, can change that budget, which would then in 2 years or 3 years, which would then subject the town to possible legal fees and penalties. So,
So it's no different though than when we take our bond,
Exactly.
you have a 3-year bond.
You're obligating the taxpayer to pay that 3-year bond. If you're gonna do that, then every town in the state of Maine cannot take bonds, then. I mean, if you take away the opportunity to do a multi-year contract, you take away any type of savings or anything to the town. One of the next things is going out RFP plowing. You think anybody wants to do an RFP for 1 year of plowing? Ain't gonna happen. They're not even gonna even put a bid in.
And it's not, well, particularly in plowing, it is not in the town's best interest to go with single-year contracts.
Same with waste management, you know, same exactly.
You know, to do the alternative will take more than a year.
I guess I'm thinking the question is, instead of having a blanket authorization, is that each of those contracts as they come up, if it makes sense to make them multi-year, that we vote on them that way, and it gives us more protection, as I understand it. Am I?
Well, you can do multi-year contracts as long as you get voter approval.
Right. So instead of having a perpetuity article, we would just have to individually do each contract, is what
Right.
The
like
legal-
Yes, the
legal
legal way to do
way
it
to do it.
is to use warrant articles like on that second page. It says the
Right.
multi-year contracts.
The problem with doing that though. Is. Once we get a contract in. Now you're gonna wait how many months before you put it to the voters to approve it?
no, because we're asking to see if the town, for instance, if you look at draft warrant articles for multi-year contracts, Article 2, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to enter into a 3-year contract for a total amount not to exceed $111,000 for assessing services. And Nick and Lorna put those figures together based on
The last 3 years.
the last 3 years.
But the problem we got is we have contracts that run out throughout the year, certain times a year. We have a waste management contract that runs out, and we have, we have multiple contracts at the transfer station. We got your sand salt, putting up the sand and salt contract, that comes up at that's coming right up, for a contract. What I'm saying is I wonder how the other towns are handling this, or what they're doing, because I know, like, the town of Reedfield, they're signing multi-year contracts.
Town of Wayne.
Huh?
Town of Wayne's doing the same.
Yeah, they're signing
Well, we
multi-year.
have a warrant article that was already approved that gave the board permission to enter into multi-year contracts.
Right, that's what I
If it was
thought.
determined to be in the best interest of the town. So we already have that authority from the legislative body. And I hesitate, as I stated at the last meeting, to have an amount not to exceed, because that ties us. And that's exactly what we found out with the road contract this year. And what do we have to take away in order to make that number work? And if we base this number on what the Warren Brothers gave us for the last 3 years, it's not gonna be the same. I've already said it.
I say it's not broke.
Don't.
Fix it.
Yeah.
Until somebody complains and then we have to go back and.
Right.
That's my question. What problem are you trying to fix with this?
Right.
Someone said he wants to pull something forward. and do
But,
something wrong.
you know, if things are,
If the voters don't approve something in the budget,
right,
and then we have to renege on the contract, then we get sued, so.
Right, but that's the other thing, when you go back to special, you know, it's no different if LD one doesn't happen and then everybody leaves and you have to have a special town meeting to get something approved. Something gets denied at town meeting, then you have to have a special town meeting, yes, for that article, to discuss it, especially if it's nothing to do with trash, from, waste management or anything like that from the transfer station, road, plowing stuff that,
has to be
dispatch
done.
services. I mean, all of that.
Yeah, this dispatch services isn't gonna be a single year contract.
No,
No.
and they're not going on it, and good luck trying to find another one.
So am I correct? We currently have the ability to do a 3-year contract. This was to do it in perpetuity. Am I correct?
Yeah, I don't remember how we got into this thing. If we've got one already there.
If we've got one, I think we,
Don't need.
Well, this is a perpetuity article that we voted 2 weeks ago.
but did we have one prior to that?
No, Mary,
So we don't have a perpetuity article. We had an article that was done. And I'm not sure how many years ago it was, but it was done for, to give the board the authority to enter into 3-year contracts.
Okay.
during that year, correct, Mary?
Right, and so we've kind of just continued in that same fashion. So
But a
did-
warrant article like that in the current year does not give authority moving forward. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, and I think a perpetuity article would probably take care of it if we did that. But
So I'd say just go with them.
So the alternative is to have this language, but have it voted on every year. Not have it be a perpetuity article, but have it in as a warrant at the town meeting every year.
Yes.
So that we're constantly asking the voters to approve
Hmm.
our entering into multi-year contracts,
Yeah,
but it's not a perpetuity.
correct.
Yeah, you could do it that way.
Okay.
I think.
For all perpetuity.
Hmm?
We won't call it a perpetuity article, but it will need to be the first article at every future
Town
town
meeting.
meeting,
Right.
and we can't miss it.
Right,
I guess the part that bothers
I feel more comfortable with that if,
but you need to vote, so you need to do it. In the June's referendum, you need to do that.
Do it
Allow
for
the
this
board-
year.
Right, allow the board to enter into 3-year contracts,
but it's in the best interest.
correct?
Well, we just had multi-year contracts. I think 3 years in the past was the norm, but then waste management, I know if we did, was it a 5-year contract?
5 year was a huge savings.
Huge savings, so we need to keep it as
And not only
multi-year.
that, some of them you have a 3-year contract, you have an option to extend. so-
Yeah.
Right,
So, just multi-year
Yes,
contracts.
because, I mean, I know like the waste management, I mean, we're not talking chunk change, we're talking thousands of dollars difference.
Yeah.
I guess I'm willing, I mean, I guess I have a hard time going against the advice of our council. So if the problem with the advice of our council is making a perpetuity article, then I would feel better having us every year give that authorization to the board. I mean, that's why we pay lawyers to give us advice. That's the only part that bothers me is that the attorney is just saying you should not do it that way. And then maybe we can hash through it. That's the part that bothers me, is we have our legal people telling us we shouldn't do this.
Right.
And somehow other towns do it and other people do it. So there's got to be a piece we're missing somewhere.
Mhm.
Sounds like to
I
me.
agree, a lot of the towns are doing it the same way we're doing it, they're just doing it.
because it saves them money.
So, if you want to do it every year, I'm fine with that. We're gonna do that, then you're gonna have to have a motion to reconsider that.
Okay.
There's already motion to put it out to public hearing and.
we change the article tonight, then we can put it up to, if we rescind it and if we vote with new language, then we can put it on the public hearing. for
Do
May
we have
2nd.
to change the language of it because we put it as a perpetuity article, but if it's just an article.
Right,
Yeah, you
but-
just gotta get, you get rid of the perpetuity.
Right, we
right,
just have to-
the perpetuity sentence, this authorization will remain in effect until it's changed by a vote
Right.
of a future town meeting. Do we need to specify for this current year? No. So we just take out that last sentence and,
Just take out the last sentence.
Sarah?
So, just, so it's clear to the public, what having a perpetuity article means.
That
So
means
means
that-
that we already, the town gave us permission to do multiple agreements from now on.
Forever.
So now it's forever.
Unless the town meeting votes.
Thing is
against it.
that, the thing about this kind of, rights and privileges, so to speak, and boil trust from the public, is that the public change, and so will you guys. So that if we don't do this every year, the only way in 20 years, 15 years from now, somebody's gonna remember, it's brought up every year. And the reason I brought this up is I have the same issue at the school board with a particular change of policy. And everybody's jazzed up with the new policy, but I'm not, because when I'm not there, nobody's gonna remember what was the mindset behind it. And the mindset behind it, a perpetuity art, as I hear it, is that it's gonna give flexibility to the select board to make decisions. But this economy can change. So not having this is, I know it's important and now is inconvenient to do this every year. kind of. But in the long run, we provide a good services, with my thought into it, yeah, so.
So,
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
okay, I'll second.
Okay,
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
two, yes,
Peter?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
okay.
So I move that we
Move this warrant.
that the warrant article, shall the town vote to authorize the board of select persons or the designee to negotiate and the board to enter into multi-year contracts on behalf of the town and to extend existing contracts found to be in the best interest of the town of Belgrade. That's all.
Second. Oh.
Okay. We have discussion. All in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Melanie? Yes. Barbara, yes. Okay,
Okay.
now I can sleep easy at night. My father was a lawyer, so I just had this drilled into me that you listen to your lawyer.
Okay.
Always put the pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else.
I know.
I don't agree to.
Okay, I move that we open a discussion for merit increases for retention, increase on rates.
Did we vote on Sean Morgan's entitled town?
Oh, second, I'm sorry, yes.
Like,
Did we vote on the planning board ordinance? We did the cemetery.
we already voted on the plan. We already voted on the plan.
That was when George was here.
When George was here.
Oh, okay, because we didn't do this draft ordinance article in this section, which is why I'm asking. So we approved moving forward to that, but we did not actually approve the wording of this article.
Okay, that is still good point.
So
Okay. So should we do that now? If we're going to further
yeah, if
discussion?
we're doing, because this is the part where we're doing the warrant articles for the June
Okay.
referendum, so we need to include. So warrant article.
So this would be the word article for the planning board. Shall an ordinance entitled Town of Belgrade Planning Board Ordinance be enacted? I move that.
Second.
I'll
So
second
that-
that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Peter?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yes. Okay.
Okay, so just so we're clear, so what we have in June, we have planning board. We have cemetery. We have the multi-year. And we have the school. Is that it for June?
I think so, yes.
Okay, there wasn't anything else. There's something, I didn't miss anything else, right?
Can we just have a motion to place them all on a public hearing for May 2nd?
I'll make that motion, Mary.
Second,
Already did that.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay. Okay, Mary,
It's on.
Are we good?
okay, so merit increases for retention increase employees. So this is something that came up. Lorna, do you want to talk about this?
I had a few employees and supervisors contact me to find out if these could be retroactive to January, to receive merit increases because these were included in the budget, as were other employee merit increases. I did have a board member ask me today for a little bit of the history. I pulled that together this afternoon and put it on a sheet for you. It just shows the increases. So the retention increases and any merit increases that have, or the most recent that have been done for those retention hourly increases, just those employees.
And it only pertains to these 5 employees.
Correct.
Whose pay was increased in order to bring them up to
To, yes, where you thought they should be.
level where we thought they should be.
So Dan would normally, before we change the April evaluation, would not have been eligible for a merit increase until November. Am I correct?
Actually, April, he was hired in April. He had
Oh,
a
he's hired in
6-month
April.
6-month increase in November.
Oh, okay. So he was eligible.
I know my intention was when we gave these people these increases to bring them up to what we thought they needed to be, my intention was to include any raise for this year, so. I'm gonna end up-
And I think that their expectation was that they would be eligible for merit
Merit
increase since it was in the budget. Bruce?
So. Let's kind of back this up to last year, 2022. So you had some other people that were brought up to stop on pay in 2022. And they still get their merit raises. They got brought up to snuff and they get their merit raises to boot. Now you're gonna penalize this year's people, bringing up to snuff and not give them merit raises? I've said it, I say it every time. Fair across the town. Be fair across the town.
See, the numbers though that I put out for bringing up their pay to what they thought they should be. As far as I was concerned, I included the merit increases in that bringing up.
But when we budgeted, we didn't budget that.
No, you budgeted on what they were making previously, which didn't include the increase that Dan was presenting.
No, we included the merit increases and their raises in the budget.
I think that's true. I think Nick said I put in enough room so everyone can have a
That's
merit
how it
increase.
was
I'm not
budgeted.
saying that's what I thought we were doing, but that, I think Nick did make that comment.
I mean, if you're gonna punish these employees, then you're gonna have to do it to the other employees also.
Okay, when you're talking other employees, you're talking the office staff?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to know, no names, but just, that's what we're talking about that.
Right,
Listen,
that's why I'm trying to get a little, that's why, I
Yeah,
didn't
without
wanna bring
using
up
names,
the
I
fact,
understand.
I tried, I just,
So my question would be, how does everybody got merit increases just like that?
No,
There's an evaluation process.
Performance review.
That's not,
So not necessarily everybody's gonna get merit increases.
No, up to 3%,
that's the truth.
up to 3%. based on
Yeah,
evaluation.
but it's in the budget, so we'll just. As long as we budgeted for it.
So were those, I have a quick question. Were those merit increases based upon the year-to-date of hire? Because we've now changed to all evaluations in April. And so everybody wasn't, their evaluation, some people's didn't occur till September. So that's my question. Was there enough money, extra money put in the budget to now pay those for from the month of April instead of those that would have been calculated in September for the 3 months?
I think Nick added the 3% for the whole year, Mary. He didn't pull each employee and find out when their hire date was and.
Okay, just historically, because that's not how we've done the budget process, but that's okay.
Anthony,
You guys are fighting over pennies. I mean, this is niggling over pennies. Because I'm just going to use nice round figures. So let's say someone makes $50,000. And you give them a 4% merit increase. And let's say that merit increase takes effect in the middle of the year. That's $1,000 in a $3.5 million budget. There's no department that should be able to absorb that. I mean, no department that I know of in recent history has gone over budget. It's a matter of simply managing the budget. And by denying these folks their merit increases, what you're saying to them is, we don't value your service as much as we do the others. And so I assume that you raised the rate of pay for these 5 employees because you do value their service and you want them to stick around. Well, a good way to encourage someone to start looking is to deny them a merit increase because they performed a great job over the course of the year. So, you know, Bruce is right. The voters approved the budget. As long as the budget is not exceeded, then, you know, and that's a matter for the town manager to manage that. And if you go over budget, then she gets to be held accountable for that. Otherwise, she should be in charge of your personnel evaluations and the compensation that they get within the guidelines that you guys have given. So if the guideline is, you know, we're going to approve merit increases up to 4%, as long as she's not exceeding 4%, unless there's some really compelling reason. And there have been reasons in the past where you guys have been faced with potentially losing a really valuable member of your staff. And so you've increased their pay, even though it wasn't budgeted, and yet you still finished in the black. So, I mean, you guys are niggling over pennies here, and you're potentially, you know, sending a mixed message to an employee that we don't value your service as much. And believe me, you got 2 of them on the line tonight who could go anywhere and ply their trade for more money. And if they did, they would leave huge gaping holes in this organization and in this community. And in that instance, you wouldn't be doing the taxpayer any favor whatsoever.
Tom.
What he said.
Well, I agree completely with what Mr. Wilson says.
Okay.
But the problem here is that we're not dealing with private money. We're dealing with public money. And this is have to be very transparent. So I applaud the select board for looking into this.
Well, but Sarah, the budget,
I'm not trying to
the
really
budget,
get
the budget has been approved by the voters, and as long as you don't exceed the budget, you're golden.
But we have to be accountable to the public of where that money goes and how it's done.
Okay, any other discussion?
So I just had a question. I want to make sure I heard this correctly. So Lorna, did you say that Nick had accounted for the merit for the whole year? Oh,
Yes.
sorry. Yeah, the merit.
Yes.
And another question, if you don't mind, the merit increases, do positions top out after so many steps, or is that not a thing? It could be not a thing.
No, currently,
Okay.
There's no set scale or schedule in place that is accurate to reflect any hourly wage
Okay,
in the town right now.
thank you.
Something we talked about, maybe looking at.
yeah. I mean, I think we need to look at a workshop or get a group together to say, what are the position values of our employees? And then we look at it and say, you know, you usually hire between, 80 and 120, you have a range. And if someone gets to the top of their position value, they're at the top of their position value, but we don't have that now. I think that's something we need to look at.
Okay. And the other thing, I think if the employee handbook, I think you guys need to go back and readdress some stuff in there, because in there, it says merit raise up to 5%. And as long as I've been dealing with stuff, I've never seen a merit raise up to 5%, approved up to 5%. So I think what it should stay, instead of a merit raise up to 5%, just a merit raise with no percent, you know what I'm saying? Just, because that is an employee, when we as a town of Belgrade hire an employee, we hand them that employee handbook. And they see that merit raise, oh, wow, okay. Next year, I'm due for could be up to a 5% merit raise increase. And then, oh, no, it's only 2% this year. So I think it just should be changed, just not have a percentage in there, you know what I'm saying? To just give new hires a false expectation, that's all.
Okay, John?
Yeah, I agree with that completely, because it gets back to the message that you're sending to employees. Because if you say up to a 5% merit increase, and somebody has done just an absolute outstanding bang up job, and that's what you tell them, so you get 3%. That, instead of sounding good, that turns into a figure of teeth. Right?
Yeah, we may need to say up to the amount approved by the budget, not to exceed 5%. Probably there was trying to put a cap in there at some point. But again, if we get and really look at our pay grades and focus outside of budget, when we're not in a budget crunch, and say, where are we at? What do we need to do? I think it's worth a workshop or two.
Right, I think the budget committee and the select board should have a couple of workshops in August,
Yeah.
July and August.
But back to
Okay.
these numbers. At least 2 or 3 of these ones that I suggested, what we wanted people to be making. If they were gonna get a merit increase, it needed to be done on last year's amount of money they were making per hour. If you don't give somebody a raise and then give them a raise on top of that. And then I would have looked at, and that's why I feel that the numbers I had included them, because if they were making $23.97 an hour, and they got them their 3% increase, but I wanted them to make $26 an hour starting this year, that would have been the difference. And that's how I was looking at it.
So I'm gonna throw something out here, and I won't gonna throw it out. I don't like the comment that was made at the meeting the last meeting, is, well, since they're getting retro pay back to January, then I hope they realize they're not gonna get another raise for a year. And I think that was throw mud in their face, in everybody's face, and and I don't like that. I mean, so, that is something that shouldn't have been said. If you want to say that, then it's right up, it's on the recording. And I don't think that was right.
Well,
I think we're ready for a vote.
I think we're ready for, do we have a motion?
No. So I move that we approve appropriate merit increases, or approve merit increases within the bounds established by current policy. Laura?
Say that again, Barbara.
I'm just merit increases, but do we need to be more specific than that as far as?
It would
That's
be,
not what the
it would be,
question is. It's asking if we make them retroactive to April 1st. It's not really
Oh,
what we
because-
do a merit increase, it's saying, so anybody who's had their review in the month of April. If they were gonna get a merit increase, instead of the merit increase going from their review forward, they're retroactive to April 1st.
Right, but we're talking about these
Yeah, you're
specific
talking about
five
the
people.
retention
These people, we're only
employees.
talking about these people who have
because the
received
others are.
retention, increases. The other ones already.
But that wasn't what you said for a motion, you said something about a merit, that they receive a merit increase. And I thought we were just saying if they receive a merit increase and we're backing it to April 1st.
Well, there was some question as to whether they should receive a merit increase.
If we're gonna, I think if we're gonna do it, whether we do it April 16th or April 1st, we should just go back to the first and make it even, because there we really are talking pennies.
Why wouldn't we just do it May 1st, which was the whole point of having everybody's reviews done in the month of April, and then if they were due for a merit raise, then everybody would start on May 1st. Is this whole backing it up,
Right.
quite frankly?
But the merit
yes.
raise,
It's gonna get confusing
Right.
and
That
it's
we've already, the merit raises were already approved to be effective April 1.
After
That was at your last meeting.
Yeah, we approved that.
So they could get an evaluation on the 15th and we go back from the 1st of April
Correct.
for it.
Right.
If that's what we've approved for other people, then I think that's what we need to approve here.
Right.
So do you want to restate your motion?
I move that the board can approve merit increases for those employees who received retention increases, and those merit increases be retroactive to April 1st.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Yeah,
I'm gonna hold on for a minute. I'm gonna do that.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
Barbara? Yes.
We didn't have anything here about merit increases going to, sorry, I wanted to just review the minutes. And all we did was Vice Chair Carol Johnson mentioned improved retention increases retroactive to January 1, 2023. And I know we had the discussion about doing all of the, instead of having when people's anniversary dates were doing their all of the reviews in April, so then everybody's increase would start at the same time. I don't remember at any one point in the last time's meeting that we said, and then we'll also talk about whether or not we make this retroactive to April 1st. Because then it would be pointless.
The meeting before the end, remember?
I'm kind of thinking of waiting on this, but we wanted to be able to do the increases after the town meeting so that we knew the budget was approved.
Oh, that would be April 1st, because the meeting ends, town meeting is always in March.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's why we did April
Maybe it
1st.
was.
Yeah,
Right,
But-
but merit increases
Right, have to be
were
done
separate,
with the
they're not
review.
retention. They were separate.
Done with the review.
This is just retention increases, retroactive pay. This isn't, that's for those 5 people.
Right.
So was it
that's why I'm
at the
saying
previous
we
meeting?
didn't-
Was it at the meeting in
may have.
March 21 that we discussed the?
So Lorna, when you, the evaluations you've done in April, have any of those had merit increases?
Yes,
And those were back to April 1st?
correct.
I think we need to be consistent.
Why
We can
would-
change it for next year, but
So
we've
why
already
were those
paid.
ones back to May, April 1st.
Because
none of
that's
them
what the
should have been
board
April 1st.
Decided that they would be back to April 1.
Right.
Bruce,
I don't
you're
remember,
here
I
at every
remember we
meeting.
had the May
Do you
discussion.
remember
and
that?
that we
pretty
were
sure
gonna
that's what
do-
it was.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
I don't have.
I want to see that, because I remember the discussion very differently, that we were doing reviews in April, so that everybody who was due for a raise could start May 1st. So why we would back it even up to April 1st, and if we did, and it wasn't our intention, then that should be held out of the next paycheck. So if we can find a vote that this board took that says that merit increases, no matter what time they happen in the month of April for their review, go back to April 1st, let me know. And I will change my decision. But.
So are you abstaining or are you voting no, Melanie?
So what I'm saying then is I guess I would vote no. I would be happy to do the retention increases back as we said at the last meeting. But we have to be consistent with everybody, which was the whole point of doing all the reviews in April, getting them all accomplished. So that everybody's who was due for an increase would start at the same time. So, and voting on something, if we're not clear on it, just for the sake of moving it along, I think does not behoove this board.
We're going back a couple of minutes, couple of meetings ago, minutes. I don't have them.
Right.
Bruce,
Is that something that you guys made accept an executive session?
no,
Okay.
because we're not talking about anything.
No, I didn't know if that was where you guys, find that in minutes. I just throwing that out there.
I'm confused. You guys already voted 3-1? I'm not
We
sure.
voted 3-1 here,
Made it to 3-2.
or 3-2,
3-2,
so.
so.
Well, the vote carries.
Okay, so moving on to new business.
But I would still like to see that.
Oh, no, we have the winter maintenance.
Oh, winter maintenance. Oh, I'm sorry. Thought we were under new business. Okay, so winter maintenance, we have a RFP for a 3-year contract.
Tom's like,
There's the-
I didn't think my body language was that bad, was it?
I read minds.
Okay, Lorna, you want to walk us through the latest of the winter maintenance?
Yes,
contract?
you have the most recent, update for the RFP Sarah sent out to me. It is the one, if you look at the first page, June 30th, 2023 is in red. In text. So this simply modifies the old RFP so that we have a bit longer to accept bids. And also, it kind of splits things up and makes very clear to people who are reading it that the town would accept either 1 or 2 contractors. And it splits the roads into districts, if you will, south and north.
Go ahead. Needs to be a correction on the first page.
This is just a draft.
Where it
That
says-
Sarah sent to.
Yeah, June 30th, 2023. Does the Board of Select Persons reveal all proposals at their next meeting on Tuesday, December
Mhm.
20th, 2022?
I missed that.
So we need to correct
I'm
whatever that's going to be.
allowed one mistake a year, so that's it.
Or you could, my thought was to say this RFP is open until a contractor or contractors are secured. The Board of Select Persons will review all proposals at the next scheduled meeting of the board after receiving a bid.
So have we talked to the committee
That
about
kind of
leaving it open-ended?
open.
Yes,
So we didn't have to keep publishing the RFP.
right, but the problem is, we're up against it. We're in a jam now.
Yeah, we are.
I don't know if the board really realizes how much of a jam, as a body that we're in.
We're smart.
I didn't imply that you weren't. Holy cow, this is a cover, you didn't tell me about this, seriously. We've had conversations now with, as a committee, we have a public works committee, which is an ad hoc committee. They've appointed me chair for better or worse. But we've had conversations with 6 or 8 towns and cities near us, and probably at least 8 or 10 contractors. And we've gotten some figures together and timelines of this, that, and the other. The reason we put June 30th, the end of the fiscal year, on this is because either a new contractor who's coming on board would need most of the year to buy equipment, hire people, train people, and be ready to go by the drop dead date, which is October of 24. If we're gonna make a public works department We are really pushing it with July 1st. For instance, equipment. Kevin Hawes talked to O'Connor's, and for 10-wheel trucks with snowplow, you order a year in advance. The demand is so great that there are no discounts and you're waiting a year. So realistically, that means we have to start ordering trucks in July or August, because if they're a little later than a year, I mean, we need one way or the other, we need trucks with drivers ready to go in October of 2024.
Right.
So that's why we put the end date of June 30th, because at the end of that time, the board is gonna have to come to a decision. Do we move forward with a public works department? Or do we have a contractor by that time? And I think I can speak to everybody on the public works committee. We all prefer we get a contractor. The very rough numbers we've come up with, and this is after talking with both towns, cities, and contractors in the area. If you want CDL drivers working for the town, you're gonna pay them probably $25 an hour to start. Okay, you're gonna need 4 of them. You need 4 trucks, and you're probably gonna have a backup, which would probably be a subcontract. And what did we come up with? $300,000, $400,000 in wages a year just for those people. Trucks and just trucks, 4 trucks, and we decided, well, we're gonna buy new, we're gonna buy used. If you're gonna buy used, you're gonna have to hire a mechanic as well. And you're gonna have to have at least 5, because one's gonna be broken all the time. 4 new trucks is 1.3 to 1.4 million. Which is not an inconsiderable amount of money. And then we have 4 brand new trucks, we have to have some place to put them, right? So we have to have a building. And if we're gonna have a building, we have to have some land to put the building on. So the land, the building, outfitting it, getting enough tools to be able to do things like tire changes, power washing, drains in the floor, all this jazz. You're talking the thick end of $1 million. And that's based on some projects locally in Augusta that have recently been completed. So upfront, minimum cost, you're looking $2.5 to $3 million capital cost, minimum, maybe more. And then running the public works department is probably $1 million a year, every year. Now, that's not as bad as it sounds, because the current plowing costs and that sort of thing would be rolled into that as well. So that's why we put June 30th as we need to get that done. Now, we have a couple of irons in the fire with contractors, and we hope that to mix metaphors, one of those irons bears fruit, right? But but we don't have any guarantees, which is why we want to get the RFP out. We want to be as transparent as possible. Okay, we're officially, replying with a bid to this RFP, and so that we can keep everything above board. But that's why we put a date of June 30th, because beyond that, then we really get into a fix. The other thing that's very important about this, after talking with contractors, there are not too many contractors out there who are willing to take on plowing anymore. Most of the guys who do plowing are late 50s, early 60s, and they're tired and they're done. And there are several local contractors who even built their businesses up with the idea that they give it to their son. Gee, Dad, this isn't for me, So there are not a lot of young people coming in. Most of the plow drivers are older, and even the ones that the contractors are hiring. So, and we're not the only town in this position. So going forward, we may be looking at public works anyway. Let's say we get a contractor for the next 3 years or 6 years. Like I said, most of these guys are in their 50s and 60s. They're not going to last 20 or 30 years in perpetuity. So we may be looking at public works down the road anyway, and there are some towns in this jam. So we want to keep that strongly in mind. There's another point I was gonna make, but it's late. It's not important.
So,
Oh, and one other quick thing, if we get a contractor, which is preferred, the price per mile is going to more than double. It's gonna be 2+ times, or what people are charging. I think it's what, 6,500 a mile?
Yeah,
Is what we're paying now.
2,500 a mile now.
Yeah, so you're talking somewhere between 12 and 15. And I would probably lean toward the higher number.
And that's the first year.
That's the first 3-year contract.
If they'll do it for 15 for the first year.
So,
Right.
Yes, so it's a huge increase, but, you know, as a taxpayer, and even in your position on the board, I would think a contract would be the better value long-term for the taxpayer.
so what's the dollar number on, if it does double, what would that dollar number be on the contract?
It's what,
Well,
48 miles?
40.
Yeah, at 15,000, it's roughly 725,000 a year,
Just for the contract.
just for the contract. That's without the salt and the sand and it's just the
You're
contract.
talking just $1 million for plowing.
no, 3/4 of a million.
Well, yeah, then you're gonna add the sand and salt.
You have to get sand, salt, not everything else.
Yeah, so it's the thicken.
I don't
Feel
want
less
for us to escalate our anticipation of cost so much that we're essentially saying to the taxpayers that you have to do this.
No,
Because, I mean, we had this conversation during budget season, and it wasn't a $15 a mile, it was $11 a mile, or 11,000 we were anticipating, and now we're saying 15.
this is based on, like I said, conversations with 8 to 10 contractors, and these are hard numbers. This is what I would charge, or this is what I'm going to charge for the next contract for this town. This isn't, you know, we're not making this stuff up, and we're not guesstimating. These are hard figures.
Yeah, because isn't the town of Reedfield, did they pay a huge, didn't they per mile really like doubled?
I think so. I think they were one of the
I
ones.
think their power contract went from like 300 or 400,000 to almost $1 million.
Yeah, and there are other towns that are experiencing the same sort of sticker shock.
I mean, at some point, we're probably going to have to say we need a public works department, but if we can get a contract now for 3 years, that allows us time to get ourselves ready and do a lot more research and land
Yes,
acquisition.
the other thing that we found in our conversation, it is just what Carol's saying. A year and change to get a public works department up and going from scratch is really not enough. And one of the other things we want to consider, it may not be possible. We've been talking for years and years about a central fire station. And having that in near the center of town. If we're gonna buy a piece of land, we should buy a piece of land, if one's available, that's big enough for both. I mean, if they do basically the same thing, they have big trucks that run, they need to be stored and run out, so it makes sense to have both of those in one place. The other thing we found out, speaking of that, there's one parcel of land that's a little more toward the village that might be available. The state-owned piece of land that everybody's been talking about for years, Lawrence Carlton 4 or 5 times, they're not interested. They're not interested in selling it to us, they're not interested in leasing it to
They
us.
came right out and said, essentially, stop asking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's off the table, which is unfortunate because that would be ideal for fire department, and public works, but it's not gonna happen. But I think we should start. My personal opinion is that we should start looking now for a piece of land for public works.
Right.
And if it's available, we should buy the damn thing now. And the reason I say that is because that's one of the things that's given everybody gray hair in this committee. Okay, we gotta go. Where do we go? And if we have that solved, and okay, so the town sits on 5 acres of land, big deal. We can resell that land without taking too much of a loss. Land isn't gonna depreciate by 50%, I don't think, in the next decade. So it would behoove us to do that because it would save us time. It would also behoove us to get as much testing, for septic, find out what our permitting needs to be for, what do we need for drainage for, non-permeated portion of the whole business. Even plans and an architect, because this is probably coming. And that way, yeah, it'll cost a little bit more upfront to do it that way. But when we're up against it and we're in a jam and the contractor says the last year I'm done, we can move more quickly then. So that's just my opinion, it's taxpayer.
Thank you. Thanks to you and the committee for all the work that you're putting into them.
Wow.
So at the order that we need to decide right now is the RFP, understanding the urgency.
Yes.
And so the edits that are in red are changes from the previous.
Correct.
The previous RFP. And so if we want to,
Do we have edits in red? We have a different copy than we do.
There's one on the table.
There's one on the table. It's the one that Sarah emailed and I forwarded out to you all and told you I would print hard copies.
Thank you. Perfect.
This one?
Okay. Question for you. The first Tuesday in July is July 4th.
right, we're not gonna be meeting that day.
Now,
So would we need the fifth? Well, we would need to, if this says we'll review all proposals, next scheduled meeting on Tuesday or on Wednesday, July 5th, or do we do? I don't know what happens on the select board when it falls on a holiday. Do you move it to Wednesday or do you do it the next Tuesday?
It's fall, we get it.
Or you could say the RFP is open until a contractor or contractors are secured and the board will review all proposals at the next scheduled meeting, so you don't have a cutoff time.
But Tom's
Well,
saying,
Tom's saying we
we
need
need
to
to
have that
have
cutoff.
time because we need to know when we need to go into high.
Oh, but
gear.
are you saying if we had a contractor who came forward now, that we wouldn't have to wait until then?
Correct.
Oh.
The board would review all proposals at the next scheduled meeting of the board after receiving a bid. So if a bid came in next week, you could actually review it at your next regular meeting.
I don't know why
Right.
we wouldn't hold the bids open and at the same time and not do take every single meeting, because then what if the fifth one is the best one and we secure the third one?
If we get one, we're gonna be really lucky.
Yes, you're
Not
fine.
get any bids, because we're asking people to bid, it's not gonna be any different, and change, mark my words if I'm wrong. But no one was gonna bid in the end of 2022 for a contract that doesn't start until 2024. So we're asking the same people to do the exact same thing, and there's no contractor in this room. Bruce, would you give me a quote for 2024's plumbing?
No,
Thank you.
well, I would, but it would be with a escalator on it.
There'd be a huge escalator, and that's anything that we're gonna get, it would look like that, and there wasn't anybody who was willing to bid that.
But
I
if we
wanted
wait,
us to keep it out there and let it ride, but,
but if we gotta make a decision July 1st, or we're gonna be up against it.
no, what the ad hoc committee's supposed to do is they're supposed to come to the board and let us know what you've been up to, what contractors you've talked to, what does this look like? What does the board think our next move should be? Not telling the board, it's an advisory committee, it's not a department. So what are your recommendations? And if June 1st seems like a bewitching thing, then yes, we do need to know that. But I would hope that nobody on this board was comfortable deciding by June 1st that we're going to
July 1st.
decide, or July 1st, that we're gonna decide on a public works department. If you wanna say something, Ms. Reed, on a record, go ahead, but that was not appropriate. So I think that we've gotta do something with this, but I don't think that July 1st is our deadline. To decide.
What are you
on a public
referring to
works
me for?
department. With that,
With what? There was nothing.
Well,
I gotta-
that was not what it was.
I got a comment. I don't know what's going on with you guys as a board, but obviously things are not flashing here as a board. It didn't at the last meeting. You all know, I've been to many board meetings, and things are not flashing. I don't know what's going on, but for a taxpayer, you guys have got to get things together. You guys need to meet in an executive session, just the five of you guys, and figure out what's going on. And stop running this town a little different than how it's been run the last 3 or 4 meetings. That's all I got to say. I'm very upset how things been running. And it's horrible. I've listened to 4 people tonight saying they can see it. What is, they don't understand what's going on. I don't. And I don't like seeing it. We vote you guys in. We expect you guys to work together and solve problems. Solve our town problem. Right now, you guys are not. You guys are just nitpicking.
Okay, well, the only, thank you, Bruce. The only thing we need to decide as far as the RFP tonight is putting out this RFP so that we have more information for the committee. The committee, the ad hoc committee for Public Works would like to, has asked us to put this, to approve this so that it can go after bid again, to give you more information. And are there any contractors who are considering this?
The committee has talked to a few, so it wouldn't surprise me if somebody.
I think we have, without naming names, and we're deliberately not naming names. Because we don't want these people. They haven't committed to anything, okay? So we're just talking to people to say, are you interested? Under what conditions are you interested? Under what conditions are you interested? If an RFP came back, would you consider this? And we don't want people in town to be bothering these people or pressuring them in any way. We want the best thing for the town. And so we have like I said, we have a couple of irons in the fire. And getting an RFP out and making sure that they're aware of this RFP and they can bid on that RFP in the normal process is best for the town. Now, maybe that's not our decision to make, maybe that's Select Board's decision to make, but that's why we're doing it this way.
So Tom, looking at it from this perspective, is June 30th the date or is May 31st the date?
You know,
Because if we're, and the reason I asked you that
I see,
question
yeah, I understand.
is we come up with nothing on June 30th and we are getting to a deadline of having to make a decision. We'll probably have to have a special town meeting. If we're gonna order 4 trucks, we're gonna have money authorization we don't have.
Oh, yes.
So that's what, 45 days for the time you decide to have a meeting, post a meeting and then have the meeting. So that takes us up till August. That's why I'm asking, is May 30th a better date than June 30th?
June 30th.
And I just am asking that question.
That's a good question. But again, do we want to give them 30 days or 60 days to respond? You know, if you have a contractor who's in a jam and who needs another 2 weeks to get the figures
Right.
together.
Yeah,
Well, here's the RFP and we need to know by tomorrow. Not
Yeah.
so much, you know,
okay,
so
maybe June 30th is.
I don't have a good answer.
Was
Yeah,
my question.
I don't have a great answer to that question. Lorna, do you have a great answer to that question?
I don't, I mean, I see the dilemma. I don't think it matters if we moved that up to the end of May.
Yeah, it's 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks to May 26th.
Yeah, can you guys probably move it just to give a break to June 16, because then you guys have a meeting on the 20th of June.
Okay. Bruce had his hand up.
So. Is it under, I'm trying to understand some of this. So is it the ad hoc committee's feeling that a contractor needs an obligation from the town? So they can start purchasing equipment and hiring employees, is that?
they need, the contractors we talk to, you know, who aren't quite geared up yet, would say, yeah, we need most of the year, the same as we would need for a public works.
So as you guys as a board, I don't know if it's the answer, you guys as a board, is that something you guys can enter into as a contract when you already have a contract for? Yeah, I understand what I'm getting at. Is that something, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if that's something you guys can even answer that.
The new contract would be for 2024.
Right, but we already have I don't know if we can enter into another contract when it's already existing contract.
But it ends before that date.
Right,
The
but I'm
contract that
saying,
we're
I
in.
think what a contract, if I understand Tom right, what I think what a contract is looking for, if they bid on this, they're looking for the town to sign a contract to start in October of 2024,
Right.
but they want them to sign the contract kind of immediately, because they're gonna have to have a signed contract to get money to borrow, to borrow money to buy equipment. And I don't, that's something you guys as a board, maybe even before you put this out to RFP, if you don't know, may need to find, I don't know, I guess I don't know the answer, and so I'm throwing it out to the 5 years, especially Dan and Melanie, because you guys got more experience on this.
I don't see a problem with signing a contract
Because
before
it's
another one expires, especially if we're putting this 3-year contract thing out to the voters in June anyway.
And then,
Multi.
Okay,
I think that's what they're looking for, any contract, I don't know, but hearing what's Tom's conversation.
Yeah, I would guess that's definitely part of it, you know. What do you need 4 new trucks for? Well, we gotta
I
plow
mean,
roads.
if we got a contractor that came in next week and said, okay, I'm willing to do that, and here's what my schedule is. Based on this, once the vote's taken and we get permission to enter into a multi-year contract, then they would have a signed contract to go and do what they have to do to gear themselves up. And if we can get someone to be able to sign that contract real quick, would be my advice, because we're just gonna be up the creek.
It's gonna be an uphill battle to try and get public works department done in a year and 3 months. That's a tall order.
So I think in that RFP, and correct me if I'm wrong, once again, I'm gonna go back to the experience of it, is can you put in the RFP that any applicable bidders, we will sign contract on this date, and I don't know how to say that,
I think that would be understood that once we approve a contract, then if the contract is, we would sign the contract effective October 15th, 2024,
I just think
and they would be able to go to the.
I
to
think
the
they
bank
need to know that, because they're bidding this a year in advance.
It says it in the RFP.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, it does, Bruce. The very first page, first paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah, Sarah?
I would like to see, that we stick to, rubber rule orders. You decide who talks. Okay, so, please.
The question for the RFP that was mentioned in the cover memo is that it says open until contractor or contractors are secured instead of the firm due date. So this one has a firm due date.
Right, that's the alternate draft that Sarah sent. You sent that to me today?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Before.
Yeah, and I sent that right out to you all and then printed hard copies. So what she sent was after I had put your board packet together.
there's 30 days under, sorry. It's 30 days under item 2 long enough. The vendor agrees to keep a ordered pipe for a period of at least 30 days. We're allowed them to review on a water contract, is 30 days long enough? let's say somebody puts something in May 1st and we're holding it to June 30th. And then reviewing all the bids. If there are more than one. And I would think the tricky part is to hold a bid price for budgeting purposes would be similar to what we ran into with other contracts that we've had, they were estimated. So they far exceeded what the quoted price was, as it came through as an estimate.
I would say that it's probably gonna be an estimate, can I speak? I'm sorry. I would imagine that the base contract would be a pretty firm estimate. There's probably gonna be a fuel clause in there. And, so. I think it's okay the way it is. It seems to me that the previous plowing contracts were pretty firm except for, fuel clauses. Am I correct in that? I think so.
Well, I think they've always honored that.
Right. But once they sign the contract, they're obligated.
They signed a contract with the cleaning lady too.
Yeah,
But her original quote was an estimate. And then when we went back and looked at Allstate for chip sealing, it was an estimate. It was an asphalt estimate. And we exceeded all of the estimates this year.
So maybe in the RFP, it shouldn't say. It should say proposal. Instead of estimate, I'm gonna throw this at you, Dan. Shouldn't it say proposal? Because a proposal, doesn't that mean that? An estimate means it's an estimate. A proposal means that it's, you're locking a price.
This is responsible for this request for proposals must be received by the town office.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't say
It
estimate.
says proposals.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a bid, you're not looking for an estimate.
right.
I'm sorry. I'm seeing language that says quoted price, and not estimate, so I think. Maybe not, I'm not saying everything's perfect, but I think it's pretty solid from that perspective.
But I wonder if we should give the quoted price for 60 days instead of 30. To give a chance if the RFP is open for within 30 days.
Oh, I think.
So the quoted price should be held. It can't be like, oh, you came in less than me, I'm gonna change my quote.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So you have to hold to the quoted price for an extended period of time, 90 days or something to
But-
give people a chance to review.
And again, we're up against it. I'm sorry, good.
Sorry.
So,
I'm sorry, Jan, I saw your phone.
so my understanding is that when we set a date that is a deadline for submitting all the bids, that the bids are not open until then. Is that right?
That should.
That's right.
Like, I was losing the thread because you want to extend the amount of time that the bid, or the proposal, the estimate is good for. So it goes beyond the date that we have set up.
Right, in the earlier version, it says this RFP is open until a contractor or contractors are secured. The board will review all proposals at the next scheduled meeting of the board after receiving a bid. So that was very open. And this one is very specific. Dan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, what do the Warren Brothers have for equipment right now?
Yeah, I was gonna say, they were gonna come to the first 2 meetings. I've got a list of whom of what they have and what they thought the town needed. Were they part of the ad hoc committee for the first meeting or so?
If I can speak.
Yes.
The one, I think they have 4 or 5 trucks, I think now, all older equipment. And they didn't attend any of the committee meetings. However, one of the committee members, Mike Harrington, met with them on at least one occasion at their shop. So I think they have 5 trucks. My recollection.
The reason I'm asking is that we're asking for, right now, we're asking somebody to have 9 trucks and a grader. Have the Warren Brothers ever used a grader anywhere yet? You know, so there's some things on here.
access to a grader,
Access to.
access to a grader.
Access to, they don't have to
Yeah.
have one.
And this is particularly if, you know, there's a lot of ice impacted on the road. That they can use the grader to actually scrape it off if needed. But. Yeah, there was some discussion as to whether we should change the language of the equipment needed and the equipment that they should have access to.
Yeah,
and
because I mean,
after-
I don't think you need to have 9 trucks.
Well,
You
that,
need to have at least 5, maybe a pickup and access to a grader. Because you're gonna be running 4, you need a backup, you'll need probably a pickup truck, and you'll need a grader. So what is that, 6, that's 7 pieces of equipment. We decided in the committee to leave as is after considerable discussion.
Yeah, well, I know all of our bids that we used to put out said that the trucks had to meet certain standards. Basically, we were gonna send somebody up to take a look at the trucks. You know, if you end up with a company that goes out and buys all almost new trucks, you know, you aren't gonna need as many as if you're gonna guys that's got a bunch of junk trucks. Because then I got 2 or 3 broke down all the time.
Right.
So, I mean, I'd hate to force somebody to, if they, especially if they're starting on going out and buying a bunch of new trucks or fairly new trucks. Force them into getting 9 trucks.
I don't think, based on the people we're talking with, I don't think we're going to get any tyros. We're not gonna get somebody who says, oh, I plowed a couple of years for somebody, I'm gonna go out and buy a bunch of trucks and bid to Belgrade. I'd be shocked if we got that.
I think Corey wanted to say something here.
I was just gonna comment that the last conversation we had with the Warren brothers, and I think it was Jason Stevens, they had 5 trucks. 4 that they use on a regular basis and 1 that's been broke down on a year that they can't fix, so it's still working out.
So really, they got 4 trucks.
Yeah, basically.
And I think, the last time we used a grader in town was, I filmed 98. They had to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't remember seeing
And
it.
I actually think that was the road commissioner that did it, not the
Probably.
plowers. So, but that's the last time I can remember a grader being used in the winter months, you know, other than DOT doing their stuff with the grader. So.
Sorry.
But that, and I just want to stress again, that seems to be a sticking point. The grader in the RFP says access to a grader, doesn't say they need to have a grader, they just need access to a grader if needed.
And that's fine, I don't have a problem with
It's not like they have to go out and buy a grader and add it to their list, it's just in the event. There's ice buildup and you gotta use a grader to fix it, or, you know, that they have access to one to use, rent, whatever.
So this says 6 trucks with 7-yard capacity each. So you're saying that we don't need 6 trucks? 5?
That's what I would say, but that's just me.
that. I'd at least reduce it by 1. All this expense with somebody trying to bid this out.
If you can, I'm okay with them reducing it to 1, Lorna, Sarah. Or we're gonna have a little ad hoc committee.
Corey's on that.
Corey, sorry.
committee as well.
No, I think I'm dropping that to 5 would be
5?
more than adequate, because
I guess, yeah.
I think we were discussing that they do 13 miles per driver per truck. Roughly, so 5 would more than cover what we gotta do.
Okay.
Well,
and
if we're
2
gonna
That's
build
number
our own
4.
public works department, we're gonna buy 5.
Yeah, well, then
So it seems as though
4
to
now, so-
require someone else to have 6
Yeah.
is a little disingenuous.
Right.
Okay, and 2 4-wheel drive trucks.
well, essentially this is 3, this is 2 3/4 ton plus 1 half ton.
2 with the plow and a sander and 1 with the plow.
2 with plow and sander. 1 with plow.
There are, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Here's-
I would recommend at least 2 pickups. I mean, I don't know, I know how previous plow contractors have done it before the Warren boys, is they had a pickup. with a sander in it, so they could go out and spot sand. Like 135 had a snow drift, they hit it with a snow plow with the pickup and then hit the sand to it. Well, unfortunately, in the last 6 years, the snow drift don't get touched and they don't get sanded, but that, you know, I think you still should keep the 2 pickups, one of the sand, you know, one of the sander, of course, both of them plowed. And usually what they use, 1 pickup to haul fuel around for their equipment.
Right, there are, based on our discussions with some of the contractors, some even use bigger pickups to clean up intersections. They'll have the
Yeah.
big plows do the roads and this guy will go behind and clean up what's
Yeah.
left. So, you know, 2 pickup trucks and a half ton and run people around, I don't think that's excessive.
Well, this doesn't even say half ton, where exactly where it is.
Three-quarter tons.
Real, yeah,
Two 3/4 tons.
With
and
a
one
sander
shoulder
and
drive.
one with just a plow,
yeah. I don't think that,
so.
my guess is that any
One with a
contractor
sander and
company's
one,
gonna have
both of
that.
them with
anyway.
plows and all are good. So get rid of one of the ones with the sander.
So what, just one with plow and sander. Access to 1 grader and 1 front end loader.
So I guess the question I'm looking at is, do we want to set June 30th, or do we want to have? If we're fortunate enough that someone comes in and gives us a bid, do we want to take it? Which would mean bid could come in and then we could discuss it at the next meeting and either take it or not take it.
Sarah,
I will suggest if this actually end up going out tomorrow to the public. That it will take maybe 2 to 3 weeks to get the word out. Then finally people are putting their numbers together. That will be beginning of May. And then summer starting. In May we have, the last week in May is gone. So I will, pledge for going into June and do it mid-June. So the last week in June, when all those bids come in, the board can act on it. That we might thinking. But
so
I see the.
Friday, June 16th.
you cut it off and do 16, yeah, right, yeah, that's right.
My only concern is if we have somebody who gives a good bid, do we want to make them wait till June 16th, or do we want to grab them by lapels?
Right.
I'm gonna,
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
my concern though is kind of, just the opposite, right? You get somebody, they put in a bid. We open it up when we accept it, well, unless somebody else has been taking the time to write up another bid, it doesn't get here until a week later. Something happens in the first bid and he bails on us. You kicked off the second guy. Because you didn't, wait for all the bids to come in.
So we wait.
So, I mean, I'm afraid that nowadays, there's nothing for sure out there. We may get somebody that would say, yeah, we're gonna accept your bid, send them the signed contract, they send it back and goes, no, we've changed our mind.
well, my, was like, if we set a date, the bids will be accepted until we have to accept all the bids until that date, and we don't open any of them.
Right, yeah, otherwise you'd have to leave it open ended, yeah,
Well, everyone's playing by the same rules.
Yeah,
okay. So do you want to do June 16th, which is a Friday,
June 16th and then Friday, and then we could review them on the 20th.
on the 20th, and that takes us out of that 4th of July switcheroo.
Bruce?
And then
Does
you
that
can
make
have public
sense?
opening on them bids on the job.
should we?
It's one thing. We're just like we did the. Bids for the property.
Tuesday,
They
Yeah.
come in,
Yeah.
town manager can open them all up, everyone who wants to be here can be here. And just present them with the select board.
yeah,
Okay, so we review them on June 20th.
so if we do that and make those other 2 changes, then are we ready to vote on this?
Yeah, so I had a question, in order to answer your question, Carol, I don't know if we got clarity on the section 2 part where we talked about vendor agrees to keep the order price for a period of at least 30 days.
Oh,
Did we get clarity on that one, that part? Because I think that was the question.
Well, I think if we're gonna, I feel like if we're gonna hold them all until June 16th, then that's a moot point, because that was there because it was open-ended and we can't have, but 30 days is fine.
Because the previous language didn't have.
2 years and
Right.
30 days until 2024.
So to reduce conflict, I guess we could strike the 30 days or have it match whatever the closing date is, June 16th.
well, the vendor agrees to keep the quoted price for a period of at least 30 days.
Right.
Um,
That's why we
after the
keep
bids have
that
been
in
open
there
or
in case
something,
we
I don't
can't
know.
For some reason, get to it on the.
Yeah, what,
There's no harm keeping it.
what Carol said is, from what date is the 30 days from? From when they submit the bid or from when the bid is received? or when the
price
bids
for
are
a period of at least 30 days for the town of Belgrade Board of Select Persons to review an award contract.
Okay,
So it doesn't, it sounds like from when they submit it.
Right, so maybe it should be 30 days from the date of bid opening.
Date of bid opening. For at least 30 days from,
But doesn't that sentence pertain to the previous contract, which was open-ended with no date?
This is the same language of the RFP that went out previously.
but,
Only the dates
right,
were changed and then whatever you see in red. That was part of the last.
so if we say the vendor agrees to keep the quoted price for a period of at least 30 days.
Post bid opening.
Or we could say until and just put the date in, which would be 30 days from the 16th of, and then it's clear.
or you could say from the opening of all submitted bids. I'm sorry, I didn't.
I put all bids will remain in effect until awarding to bid.
Sometimes I think it's easier to just put a date in, you have to keep it. But if that's. If we're open the bids on the 16th, then 30 days would be July 16th, right? I don't know if we got an oddball day in there. There are only 30 days in June, so. It'd be the July 16th on a Sunday.
Right, so this is to protect us in case we can't sign a contract immediately for whatever reason.
I guess so, yeah. So let's just pick something and make a decision.
30 days from the day of the bid opening.
So within 30 days of the bid opening, okay. Okay. Okay.
Carol, in answer to your question, I think ready to move more on this, I think.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Section 4, there, number 4. Is contract agrees to commend. The Belgrade Fire Department officer. Why wouldn't it say fire chief or his designee instead of officer?
where are you?
Because you could have
Where's that
anybody
list?
call up the fire department. It's right after with a list of the company truck you have to have.
I'm on the other floor.
oh, okay,
Contractors, commencement,
Should be fire department.
chief, yeah, you're right.
fire department. Chief or his designee in the event that he's on.
Usually you don't want. And just any officer calling up because then it could be anybody.
Okay, department chief or his designee.
And would we have state police or sheriff request operations because they swap coverage for the town of Belgrade? Sometimes it's the state police, sometimes. it's
Or the
sheriff's
state
department.
police / sheriff department.
Sheriff's office.
Okay.
You want to specify Kennebec County Sheriff Office? Just asking.
I don't know.
So it's about Main State Police.
Yeah.
It's a main public safety. I think it's fun.
Are we ready for a motion?
I think so.
I move that we approve the RFP as amended in our discussions tonight. You want me to list those? No,
No.
okay,
So, got a motion, I'll second the motion.
a second, okay,
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Peter,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Carol,
yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara, yes, okay, five yeses. We have an article.
Thank you, Tom, and the committee for all the work to get this done. So
It's something that has, you have to make a decision and get this moving or.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna be run out of town at the end of the snow shovels.
Remember I said we could buy a whole bunch of snowplows and everyone just does their own road by 6 in the morning.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah.
Sarah.
Okay. The new business.
Okay. That we consider the tax anticipation methods.
Second,
So Marty, you've got these, have these bids from three different banks.
Yes, Bernstein sure put out the RFP and sent it out to a whole list of financial institutions they normally send to who has received that opportunity in the past for us. We did get.
night, Tom.
Night, Tom, thank you.
Let me know if you need anything else.
Okay, thanks, Tom. We did get three, last one came in yesterday from Anders Scoggin. So, there are the three institutions that actually, gave us a rate to consider. Bernstein Sure has provided paperwork in the event the board, after considering these, does decide to choose one. One of the things that Nick and I talked about last week when we saw the first bid come in was that the sooner we get tax bills out, the better it will be for us with revenue coming in. So the goal is to use very little of the TAN or none at all. And that's if we can get kind of line things up just right so that tax bills go out as quickly as possible so that we start getting that revenue to help us. There's like 2 or 3 months where things are pretty low and
Right.
it's.
And we use the undesignated fund to help float that, correct?
Okay.
Barbara, I have a question. So I'm not familiar with TAN as a whole and the purpose of it for the town. And I've heard part of what you were saying. So was that what you were saying, the full explanation of the purpose of the TAN, or was that just how one person was anticipating it being used?
No, tax anticipation note. It's in a sense, a loan to the town during the tax year. So this January to December, if funds are low for the town operating, because we're waiting to get tax bills out to get that revenue coming in, then that gives the town a cushion, a safety net to draw on those funds to meet expenses until that revenue starts coming in. I think before, it's my understanding we used to draw the whole amount.
Right.
Is that right? And then you changed it, last year, 2 years ago, maybe or
Yes.
something.
Been a while.
Yeah,
Yeah, so started to draw only what was needed, and that saves on interest. The alarm.
It's like a home equity.
yeah, just a line of credit, yeah.
Yeah. The alarm for these is the high rates. I think last year it was 0.something%, 0.99%. Yeah, rates are really up.
So what are we looking at for rate? No, that, you know,
The lowest one was 4.99.
Yeah,
And we were I thought we were two something last year, because we said,
Yeah, I think it was up there around 2 something. I think the year before it was almost nothing.
Yeah.
they were like, please take our money, nobody else is doing it.
Yeah.
We're all sending loans.
And that's why, and then, quite a few years ago, I said, why are we taking that whole loan out? Because we
Well,
only pay interest on this little bit, we don't take it all.
All right, so I make a motion that we award the TAN bid to Bangor Savings Bank at an interest rate of 4.99%.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor? Sam?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Yes.
Melanie? Yes. Barbara, yes. Okay. I need. Okay.
Barbara, you have paperwork there. There were two. That Bernstein sure provided.
We do that now?
Yeah. No, it was on your desktop.
Okay. Oh, I see. Proposed vote. Okay. So do we need to vote on both of them?
No, one was blank in the event you. did not
Okay.
Choose
Okay.
the lowest weight.
Okay. All right, so we need to vote in this wording?
Yes, that's what,
Okay,
Ginny sent.
okay, so here is the proposed official vote. Voted by the select board of the town of Belgrade. Number one, that under and pursuant to Title 30A, Section 5771 of the Maine Revised Statutes as amended and supplanted, there be and hereby is authorized the issuance of $2 million principal amount of tax anticipation note of the town in anticipation of the receipt of taxes for the municipal fiscal year, which commenced January 1, 2023 and ends December 31, 2023. Said note shall be dated May 2, 2023. Shall mature on December 15th, 2023, shall be signed by the treasurer and countersigned by the chair of the select board, shall bear interest at the rate of 4.99% per annum, shall be payable at Bangor Savings Bank in Bangor, Maine, and otherwise shall be in such form and bear such details as the signers may determine. Number three, that said note is hereby sold and awarded to Bangor Savings Bank. Number four, said note is hereby designated a qualified tax exempt obligation of the town for the 2023 calendar year pursuant to the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. Number five, that all things heretofore done and all action heretofore taken by the town, its municipal officers and agents in the authorization of said note are hereby ratified, approved, and confirmed, and the treasurer and chair are each hereby authorized to take any and all action necessary or convenient to carry out the provisions of this voting, including delivering said note against payment therefore. So I move that we approve the vote, this language from the bank, from Bill.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Carol? Peter?
Yes.
Melanie? Yes. Yes. Five yeses.
We're now legal.
We're now.
Ginny will get paperwork to us, and once it's here, I'll let all of you know, and you can just stop in and sign.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I move that we Open the item on Rome Local Plumbing Inspector LPI coverage.
Second,
And this is from Hans.
Yes. He and Andy from Rome would like to, in a sense, cover one another. For local plumbing inspector. And he explains a little bit there. Hans would be an alternate for him, and then in turn, Andy would be alternate for him here. In the event of vacation or being unavailable, sick, whatever. Andy is also a certified septic site evaluator. He is not allowed to inspect sites where he has done the test, the evaluation. So Hans suggests in turn that we engage him to be our alternate plumbing inspector to cover our needs, should the need arise. The agreement is to do this as a courtesy between both towns, except for septic sites where Andy has created the site plan. Hans would be compensated from Rome for performing those inspections.
Dan?
I think it's a good idea. The only thing I want to comment on is the compensation. If Hans is gonna do that and be compensated by Rome, he has to do that on hours he's not working for the town of Belgrade. If he's gonna do it while he's working for the town of Belgrade, Belgrade will be compensated by Rome and he'll get his normal pay.
And then we would need to do vice versa with the town Rome. So my question on it was whether or not we need a written agreement in place like we do for the town office. That spells that.
Memorandum of
Yeah,
understanding.
'cause I mean, if we're going over to do normal inspections and we're not charging, and then they're doing, it's
Yeah.
just the ones that Hans gonna be getting money.
Do you want me to
for, the
put
extra
something
others.
together for your next meeting?
right,
Maybe?
then we could have it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I just don't want somebody from town going, coming in going, well, he should have been here working, but he's over there getting paid by Rome.
right,
Yes.
yeah,
Getting
Yeah.
paid here at the same time.
Perception is everything.
Yes.
absolutely, yeah.
Okay, we open the discussion on fire department vaccine policy.
Second,
Rona, do you have some background on this?
Yes, Tina and I spoke, a few weeks ago about this. They had a situation come up, that needed to be addressed. We talked about a policy that, he did not have one. He was gonna try to write something, so, we worked on getting a policy together for Dan to review. He made a few edits. We got this over to Phil to review for legal purposes. Phil made a few, well, his office made a few edits. I think Ann's the one who addressed it. So what you have is the final copy that's been through legal review. That would take care of the vaccine policy issue or lack of for Belgrade Fire and Rescue. And Dan is in agreement with this.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Oh, hey Travis.
Just so you guys know, I worked with this policy with Dan. And this just mirrors what Maine EMS has for a policy. To make it so we can both accept someone that's not vaccinated and have them be on our department while following Maine EMS's current rules and guidelines about what they're requiring for vaccinations right now.
Okay. Any questions for Travis? Peter?
So is there any downside to accepting this? Because it sure seemed like a good idea to me.
yeah,
There's some downside to it.
I don't know of any, do you, Travis?
No, not at all. It's just, we've kind of run into an issue with someone. This hasn't come to the forefront yet, but, we want to be able to use him on the department and have him be useful to us with while following the rules that we have to follow with Maine EMS. So I think this policy accomplishes that to make it work for everyone.
Okay,
Thank you.
So, any more discussion? I hope we accept the vaccine policy as
second,
presented.
And seconded, right?
Carol seconded.
I did second.
All in favor? Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes,
Steve?
Yes.
Melanie? Yes. Barbara, yes. Okay. 5 minutes.
There, we got over the finish line.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Travis.
And we have the last item under new business, which is building lease renewal from the Friends of the Library.
second. Is this the same as, just the same thing, exact same thing as last year?
What's the exact same thing?
Same lease amount.
$1. No inflation,
No inflation.
no increase.
I make a motion that we approve the building lease renewal because the budget number.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Peter?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes,
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara? Yes. Okay. Under other business, one thing I forgot to put on the agenda was the town manager's review. Got some responses to the Survey Monkey. So the question is, do we want to use that? I actually did find, I was searching through some old emails and did find the couple of other, I found the performance manager review, Melanie, that you sent out. I don't know if everybody's seen that. But, you know, I don't really want to belabor this for a long time. I mean, I just think we need to get it done and have a conversation with Lorna. So I guess the question is, do we want to, Melanie had raised the question of upgrading to a paid plan for Survey Monkey so that we can put open-ended questions on the survey that you can't if they're for a free survey.
Give people the chance to put comments.
Right, as opposed to just multiple choice, but that's what you have to pay for, and you can only send 10 questions on the free survey, and only to send to 10 respondents, which I didn't realize at first.
Right.
So it's pretty limited. So the question is, you know, we can plan ahead and do a more extensive survey in August leading up to a year review and keep it simple this time, or there's a manager performance review that was sent out a couple of years ago for Anthony that Nadia had sent out. So do you want to take a look at this? And this would be manual, and we can also do the Survey Monkey one, that could be done manually. The nice thing about Survey Monkey is that they compile all the results and it looks
You
nice,
have
in
this,
little charts with
I'll
colors.
pass the council.
Looks professional.
Yeah,
So I think, you know, the point of asking people other than the select board for comments is to get some idea of interactions that, you know, we wouldn't otherwise know about. We all know what we're going in a certain way. But I also think that time is of the essence since we're in the month that this needs to be done.
and we've got.
And how much was the upgrade?
It would be to $99. It would be to a monthly plan. Where you have to pay by month, $99. Because the other plans, you contract for a year, you have to pay for a year, but you can have multiple users and, you know, a lot more amenities. But I wasn't really prepared to look into that until we did a whole, town-wide assessment as to whether this is gonna be beneficial for the town. And I can see why it would be beneficial to have access to a survey app, which is basically what this is.
Right.
But I was just looking at it for one particular, I thought, oh, this is a good idea to do this on survey monkey. And of course, it turns out to be way more complicated. But then, and
And if it's limited
And
to
it's-
10
and
the
it's
board is
limited.
5.
no, we wouldn't get it. We wouldn't respond to that. We would have our own response. That would just be for the 360, for the reporting staff.
The board as well, and we had said yes, not realizing it would be 10.
Yeah,
That was my thought.
yeah. So that's what I thought that. And then there's another one that we used, this is one that, and I can't find the original of this. This is one that we used to review Anthony,
I know.
but I can't find I can't find an original of
Mary
it.
sent me, I'd have to say what she has.
So I was
And
thinking,
was that one that we didn't love at the time? That one we liked better, but we can't find the original.
well, I mean, it just needs to be retyped, so somebody can just, re-enter it. And, because I was thinking that this one, we could, would be the one that we would use, the select board would use. We could ask Lorna to take a look at a form where, it's kind of a self-evaluation. Then we could get some peer evaluation, or, well, reporting staff evaluations. But I just think we need to get moving on it.
I guess I'm comfortable for, at this point, just to send the Survey Monkey out and just to get sort of a touch point of where we are, and then we do a more extensive survey, more extensive at, the annual one. So we can just get some feedback, work with what we have for feedback, and then realize, is this gonna work? Would this work better if we had open-ended? So we can just get something done. Sure. I'm not falling on the mat for anything.
So what do you recommend? Based on,
Well, I would recommend going ahead and just doing the brief Survey Monkey survey. It's 10 multiple choice questions. It would just give us kind of a snapshot.
Yeah.
And then we each fill out the evaluation that you don't have, because I don't know where the original is. We'll just have to retype it. But I think that this is, this talks about service and support to the board of select persons. Budget preparation and administration, managerial skills. This is particular to this position. And we've used this before. And so I think this would be good. I would send this out to all of us so that the 5 of us can fill this out. And then we can have I have a 2-page self-evaluation from Lorna, where we can use that, and you wouldn't even have to fill it out, just use it as a basis for conversation of, how things are working, what you've enjoyed, that sort of thing. And then we need to schedule an executive session to discuss it. So that's what I would recommend, just doing a 10-question multiple choice Survey Monkey right now. And we want to do a more extensive feedback, and we have 7 department people who are considered department heads.
Dan, I consider, because I'm doing their reviews, Dan, Hans, Corey, Nick, Mary, Dan McKenzie, Jared, Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she hasn't,
Okay.
It's like
8.
And the control officer. They're kind of
Yeah.
entity.
Nine.
That's 9.
9. So,
So if our limit's 10, that means we could do the Survey Monkey and just get it out and get it back.
right.
Probably Travis too, since Travis more of a day-to-day than Dan McKenzie is.
Well, Dan could consult with Travis and Danielle.
We could decide which one they want. to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it should just be one department head for each. Okay. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and shall we schedule this, executive session at the next, after our next meeting? On May 2nd? Or do we want to have a separate meeting?
I'm thinking, why don't we have it on the May 2nd meeting? I'm not sure what the agenda would look like otherwise, but if we could, then let's do it.
Chris?
Can I make a suggestion? Maybe you guys do like you did this meeting, do what it's a session at a time. That way there, you know, at 10 o'clock at night, going into the executive session to do a review, maybe do it at the beginning of the, you know, especially if all the everything's in line for you guys, you know, if you guys think you can do it in a half hour, if you don't think you can do it in a half hour, then just plan a time, but I'm just throwing that out there that, you know, you guys are all tired, Lana's tired, we're all, you know, everyone's tired, so if it's a 10 o'clock meeting.
Bad
then-
time, yeah.
Right, right. Well, the other question is, do we, the five of us, want to have an executive session to discuss things before we meet with Lorna? Which I think we've done, in the past, is we've had an
Well, so
executive
maybe we could
session.
do that as the half-hour session. You know, talk about where we think we're at and then have a longer meeting with Lorna at,
Another time.
or maybe that second meeting in May, we try to keep the agenda really short, so there's time to go into an executive session before 10 o'clock at night.
I like the idea of executive session first. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of pressure at 6:30 in the morning. But again, I don't want to drag it on for too long.
I'm open. I certainly defer to the senior members who've seen this in the past, so whatever you think is best in terms of having a meeting first to decide where we are and then an executive session, then another one maybe with the town manager to review all of that. That works?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the way we've normally done it.
Want to do like May 2nd for the first one and then May 16th for the second?
Mhm. Okay,
And then in just 3 months, we'll be starting the one review.
that's why this is really a check-in
Yeah,
at
but I
this
think
point.
we'll see if we can bump that out so that it's 6 months. So we want to get the same thing with her reviews on as everybody else's. We want them done. You know, the same.
Well, she has a contract, so we have to go by the contract.
We're a little late already.
Well, that's what we had in the contract, because it used to be on the anniversary, and what we did was we said on or around the anniversary date.
But anyway,
Okay,
um,
okay,
I would plan on at least an hour. When we have one in.
which would mean on the 16th, we should have as short a meeting as possible.
I'd say both nights. We're gonna.
Yeah.
Because it'll be at least a half hour, if not 45
first
minutes for
part.
us talking,
Yeah,
so.
okay. All right,
And so I will arrange to have this,
Yeah, I don't like the other
Retyped.
one. That,
and get it out to the 5 of you, and we can see when we all have insurance.
Don't worry.
Thank you.
And we should have the Survey Monkey results at that time.
that can go, yeah,
So you won't need this then, is that correct?
No.
right.
Okay.
And you can see what I do with the tidbits from my notebook that I take home. It'll all look familiar. All right, warrants. Okay, and I cross suggestion, I took out the page. I can more easily,
Read it, yeah.
all right. Payroll warrant number 42. Oh, wait a second, I'm doing it wrong. I move that we, I can say it's too late. I move that we consider payroll warrant 42 in the amount of $24,973.11. I make a motion. It's too late.
In this amount, then we can second it.
All right, thanks. I make a motion that we approve the payroll warrant number 42 in the amount of $24,972.11.
Second. Melanie did.
Melanie seconded.
You're saying 972 and 973.
Sorry, 973. Did I say 973? Yes.
Discussion.
Okay. And We have a second, no discussion, all in favor? Yeah. Oh, and the reason I can mention, since I signed this, that the reason it's so high is because this includes
These
the
retention, retroactive, yeah.
Okay,
No, I'm missing a page, because my warrant 42 only says 8,694.
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, they're mixed up on here.
Oh,
Are they mixed up on the?
yeah, yeah, they're mixed up in the sheet. Oh, okay, yeah, payroll warrant,
Is 24,973, right?
Yeah, but
right, but it's
43.
payroll warrant 43. And the BMV warrant is 42.
Oh, I mixed them up, that's my fault.
Wait,
it's
these numbers
like-
don't match.
I know, yeah.
Okay.
PMB is 42 and payroll 43.
Okay, so payroll warrant 43, we are now considering payroll warrant 43. In the amount, 24,973 and 11 cents.
Second,
Any more discussion? All in favor, Peter,
Yes.
Melanie, yes, Carol,
yes.
Jan,
Yes.
yes, Barbara, okay. And BMV warrant 42 in the amount of $8,694.25. State of Maine BMV. All in favor? Peter,
Yes.
Melanie? Yes. Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara, yes. Okay, AP warrant number 44. I move that we approve AP warrant 44 in the amount of $118,000. $118,155.32.
Second,
Hey, more skid steer repairs.
I know, I was like, what is that one? I think at this point, we may want to consider renting the skid steer again for $4,000 a year because we're way exceeding that.
Which skid steer is it, Bob?
This is transfer station.
yeah, but wasn't this the one Corey said last week? We paid one and there's gonna be another one coming?
Yeah, that was weeks ago. Last week was the one that was supposed to be the one guy.
This is a service, I think, new skid steer, isn't it?
Also, there's transfer station, skid steer repairs.
Yeah, I think it's a service.
Do you have the name of the vendor and I'll pull the invoice?
Belgrade Mechanical.
What do we have to have a duplicate key made for?
Is it like 2018 or 21?
2475 for a key.
That was for a file cabinet we bought at state surplus that didn't have a key. So we bought the file cabinet for $10 and then it was $24 to have a key for a file cabinet.
Oh.
But that's cheaper than buying. a new
Cheaper than
file
buying
cabinet.
a cabinet, yeah.
I don't see Belgrade Mechanical in here alphabetically.
Yeah, it's after Baker and Taylor Books. Before
I've got
Jeff Andrews.
Interstock and Bank and then Central Maine Power. But it's not.
You know, the one thing I noticed here, and I know we paid
I see.
$67.58 in interest on our credit card. And I know someone explained that to me. That's because when the bill comes in and when our meetings are and whatever. I would love to see us find a way, so if we do it 3 or 4 times a year, that's, you know, 75, that's $300. And we're gonna pay it.
We'd ask that it be paid and then it comes to the warrant so that we're not paying credit card interest fees.
Right, so I don't know if we
7
have,
years we've been trying
if
to
we
do
have to vote something or whatever, that we should not be paying credit and.
No, we keep asking, Jay, but
Okay.
Do we
Is
need
it
like-
that we don't get the bill soon enough, or
No, we get the bill, but I think
it's delayed coming to us?
Because of your meetings.
because of
so
our meeting dates,
By
it's
the
like,
time it by the time the AP warrant gets cut and you all approve at your meeting and then that check gets sent, it must be beyond the 30-day or the.
Right, or whatever,
Yeah.
20 days, I think it is. But
I'll
whatever
check with
we need to
Nick on
do, I would, once we figure that out, make a motion that we vote to allow that to be paid, so we're not paying $67.58.
Bruce?
And
You
it
should be able to just go online to that credit card, your credit card account, and you should be able to get your, you know, amount way in advance and just bring it to, you know, put it on the agenda ahead of time. Or
Yeah.
warrant.
whatever we have to do, but to figure that out.
I have, Belgrade Mechanical Services, this is field service. Changed engine oil filter, fuel filter, water separator, air filter, cab air filter, so that was sounds like a regular
Service call.
maintenance on that.
Maintenance call.
And that may be also the, part of that may be the service for down on the hopper too, may not be all space, you have to clarify that with Kenny, but.
Yeah, it doesn't say here.
I know we did a service on the motor on that too.
Skid steer, TS skid steer.
Yeah, it only
repairs.
references the Kubota
Yeah, okay.
SSD 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I thought one of our other big bills, had already done the service.
Not on that one. I was on the one about the hill.
Boy, that was one expensive rake. $146.50.
Would be an iron rate, but was that expensive?
Okay, Lawrence, anything you want to point out to us from the warrant?
no, there was nothing super unusual.
Yeah, so what is the deal on that rate?
The, billing,
Yeah, for facilities.
was it a credit card thing? In
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it must be under a credit card.
Remember services.
Yeah.
You can actually still use faxes here. Every fax I know of is sent through the computers now, prints out of the computer.
No, you'll have people that fax in an ID card probably.
Believe it or not, the state of Maine still requires you to use a true fax machine to fax stuff.
State of Maine.
Yeah.
If I go into, where I have to go get the folders for the awards and stuff I get out, I have to pay cash. I don't accept credit cards. in The state.
Okay, anything else?
She's still.
Oh,
I was looking, this is,
for the rake.
yeah,
It's towards the end of the credit card.
yeah, but I've got like several,
Oh,
statements here.
Well, we got. $1,200 for the
You
Maine
said it was
Society, is that
120 something,
146.50.
oh, 146, that's not at least one.
No, you're thinking the rate should be about $20.
This must be a billing.
Is there like kind of a rate?
Probably been moving. Self-level, leveling rates, it has a, I'm guessing it has a bones on it, because those are very expensive.
And I hope we're taking something from the board.
Oh, 146.50. Facility.
I don't see it, yeah. Dolly, oversight, ladders, hooks, hanger. Safety glass.
So before the hanging folders.
It's before what?
Before the hanging file folders, did you just have a hanging?
After tripod.
I don't see it on, yeah, let's see. Unless it's part of a larger order, which very well could be.
I'm gonna suggest,
I don't see
we've
it.
paid for it,
Right,
with our time.
right. And we can check with Corey and see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Maybe you can send us an email and let us know. If that is going on.
I don't see it, it has to be included in another, those are his charges on the credit card, and there's no $140 something here. So it's gotta be part of something different.
I'm just suggesting something Dan may suggest in, 2 months ago, 3 months ago now, purchase orders. And that way there, we know where, what the item is, where it came from.
The town office internet on this, is this the new internet Wi-Fi? Or is it
What page?
page 8? It's the total internet for the whole town, or that's what would cost us Wi-Fi.
Town office internet, the 152.28.
Yeah.
That's internet. They upgraded the firewall.
Okay.
But that's just a, internet charge.
Okay. Vote,
Vote.
all in favor of the AP warrant. Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Melanie, yes, Barbara, yes.
Who seconded that?
I moved it and Carol seconded it.
Okay.
yeah,
I didn't hear.
yeah.
Okay, and now we have the payroll warrant number 45, the amount of 18,532.49 cents. Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Peter?
Yes.
No? Yes. Joe?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara, yes, okay. And EMP warrant 46. In the amount of. I move we approve EMP warrant 46 in the amount of $8,574.31.
Second.
In favor? Dan?
Yeah.
Carol?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Melanie? Yes. Barbara, yes. Right.
Those come over with something.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, we're down to last.
Yay. And our managers report. We can read it, right?
It was a little shorter. Did anybody have any questions on it?
No. I was wondering about the acceptable use policy for cybersecurity coverage, since we have a tech expert on the select board. Is that something that might be appropriate for Peter to be involved with?
Sure, I'll be happy to, and I did look at it, and I had, some questions, perhaps Lauren and I can talk about it with you, not tonight.
Absolutely.
I jotted some notes and I sent myself an email about maybe some supplemental things, to support this. So just wanted to share that with you, but
They just have something that whenever just want to know.
No, I just took it upon myself to look it up.
Look at our policy now, or
The
just what an
acceptable-
acceptable use policy.
Right. Is there, just for everybody's awareness, what I'm thinking about are things like use of social media while on devices, harassment. There are some things that I think we should probably deal with at
Yeah,
some point. I didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill at all, but
it's better to have them than to wait until something first.
correct.
Absolutely.
Lorna, I'll be happy to work with you on making some suggestions and we can go from there.
I think I have the original acceptable use template that MMA sent me. So that might be a good starting point.
Yep.
MMA, it's part of our coverage and it's free
Yeah,
to us. Cybersecurity coverage through MMA. So
Is that cybersecurity insurance?
It's, well, yes, cybersecurity coverage, yeah.
yeah.
It's included in our package, so if we have, they require an acceptable use policy.
So you have
we
to
need
spell out, and then if we do
Yes.
that, yeah.
Yeah, in order to keep our coverage, so, but that's a good thing.
It is.
It's good to have the coverage and it's good to have a policy.
Here's his,
What's happening with the leasing company?
Chris?
Let Dan go first and then.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just curious, what's happening with the dog rental decision that with Perkins leasing?
We're supposed to be meeting with the board, everyone.
It didn't respond. Wait, Lana.
Did I say I met with
It says that with Perkins leasing.
them? Meet with Perkins. I did meet with them.
Okay.
No, there's still more work to be done on Dalton.
maybe by June 1st.
Maybe
if-
once we
if we
get,
get-
once we get those positions
Positions
filled, that
filled.
will help. Free up some time to get that finished up.
Yeah, I mean, we might want to consider, I don't know what needs to be done. Is there something we could just maybe contract someone to do and let Corey go do something else?
Corey's already doing something else.
Yeah, I know, he's
Doing
got,
cemeteries.
I know he's up to his eyeballs. That's all I'm saying is. So we can get, so we can get that
Yeah.
property rented and get some income.
Right, but I think that we have to wait until we met with our leasing agent. So that we've got to get all that stuff up.
Oh, no, I'm saying that there's stuff in there that needs to be done and Corey can't get to because he's still busy doing the other stuff.
I thought some of the stuff we weren't gonna necessarily do right.
No,
now.
but it's just, what it is everything is, it's just little tiny things that's gonna be finished out, tweaked out. And you're not gonna find a contract coming doing little tiny tweaks now, we'd have done it way back, we're trying to
Yeah,
save money, biggest thing. I just had one thing on the town manager's update, and it's not open up a can of worms, I just would like to bring it present, you guys read it, is the Easter thing, that was basically for 2 employees. I think that should be discussed between the town manager, the department head, the 2 employees, and the former town manager, because that was something that was negotiated with the former town manager and the department head and the 2 employees. So an employee kind of got punished because they took a holiday that the last 3 years has been a holiday for those 2 employees if they were working. So I don't want to bring up names or what department we can try to not to. So 1 employee went from having multiple holidays down to 3 holidays a year. So the negotiation was that they would have the 3 holidays, and the 3 holidays was Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And then all of a sudden, of no notification, no nothing, the Easter got taken away from them. So that's just something that, I think needs to be discussed between the town manager and the chair, the department head, the 2 employees, and the former town manager to find out what was discussed, or you guys can take that. I don't, I just think it's to be fair to the employees. Once again, this is something that was been going along, something that the department had talked to, and negotiated or discussed with the town manager as a manager thing. And, now you got an employee that didn't get paid for a holiday that
Okay.
they were intended to be paid for.
Well, he got paid, but he didn't get holiday pay.
He got vacation pay. Yeah, take a vacation day. I believe.
Okay,
I don't
I
know.
don't
I don't know how that worked. I don't
Okay, I
think.
think we can turn it over to Lorna, because.
Right, right. That's what I said. I just wanted,
Okay, thank you. You're always on the ball, which is good. Okay, anything else you want to point out?
The only thing we had this letter that came to the planning board from Scott Finley. And it needs to be acknowledged in some way, whether the planning board responds or whether Lorna, I think probably Lorna responds. To say,
Yeah.
we'll look at it, we'll think about it, we'll take it under advisement, thank you. I mean, I don't need,
Yeah.
it just
And-
needs to be acknowledged.
And he sent me a separate, he copied me with that and sent me a separate email, so. And I talked to Peter about, what's the appropriate response, and
Yeah,
so I'll get back to him and just say thank you, because a lot of what he's concerned about is covered under the ordinances.
okay,
So it's not, he's concerned about having the visual barrier, not having a visual barrier, and there will be a visual barrier. He just, the
Yeah.
person just started to work with that.
So did that come to the board, or did that just go to the planning board?
came to the
or-
planning board and we have a
It went
copy.
out in the
Yeah,
emails.
yeah,
I got
it
it.
came out.
Yeah.
And you had a copy in your mailbox as well.
Did that only because I've already seen it.
Yeah.
But
I know
I
the
just
planning
need
board
to
is
make sure,
fashioned a response.
yeah, just so we know that it's responded to and everyone, that's all.
Yeah, select board should be responding because it's a planning board issue. It's not.
Right.
You have any jurisdiction.
I just don't want it to go unacknowledged.
No,
That
the
was-
planning board did it, they were addressing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Didn't-
We don't have zoning, it makes it harder. What, did I say the Z word?
You did?
Oh my God, I used the Z word.
Planning a level one.
Blue pencil thing, same trend.
Okay.
Okay. Any other business? I will be adjourned.
I move we adjourn.
Second, the motion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor, get up and leave.
Yes.
Is that what they used to say?
I'm sorry, I'm signing as we're adjourned.
Oh, that's right, you're gonna say.
This